in here for a minute. Just got done editing you guys a wonderful video. I always turn off the Wi-Fi because we know how that goes. So we stop in, say hello, got a little dinner, we got some stuff done. Maybe we'll go over it, maybe we won't. We'll just see how it goes. Otherwise, I hope you're having a great Saturday. It's supposed to really heat up. If you guys got any tricks, need more water. We gotta get ice. We need ice at the shop. Just talked to the wife trying about it. Anyways, we got a big heat wave coming. If you guys have anything that helps keep you cool, what you do, cooler. I got Bubba. Where's Bubba? Is Bubba in here? Bubba's hanging. Bubba's in here, so that's cool. Oh yeah, that's still got a little coldness to it. Definitely could use some ice though. Adult Bubba's still cold. We'll see. Sometimes I pack Bubba with some ice, you know what I mean? Oh, all right, it's been a day though. We'll see how Bubba's doing. It's actually called Bubba. That's why I call it Bubba. Bubba's doing pretty good. Bubba holds it for a while, man. I'm telling you what. Oh. Go to the lake. Yeah, we're going to need it. Lake Michigan, man. It's going to be pretty hot in here pretty soon. Tomorrow, I think it starts ramping up. I don't know when it ramps up for you, Tanner. If it's already ramped up, if it's already the heat waves out there coming. I think it's coming this way. I don't know how exactly it's working. But it's going to be warm. It's going to be warm. Luckily, everything seems to be steady. So hopefully, nobody will have to kill themselves. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, nobody's dying. You know what I'm saying? 104 before the, yeah, man, that's some pretty harsh stuff. That's some pretty harsh stuff. The only one thing I know that could pop up would be a barrier arm. But I tell you what, I don't think there's any. The best thing is, hopefully there's no fencing. That's the worst. I remember years ago, when I was starting out, you know what I mean? Oh, and I see we got 2 likes. Thank you guys for the like. Oh, 3. It jumped to 3. I remember years ago, me and my business partner, and I was young. I'll admit it, man. I was young and dumb. And I remember we were doing this fence job for a commercial customer. And it wasn't that much. Gosh, I want to say it was maybe like, is it like 50 or 100 feet? It wasn't very much. Had a little jog in it. And I remember out there working, right? I'm working with the guy. And he's like, dude, he's like, next week it's going to be like 20 degrees cooler. And I'm like, I know, but like, we got the time. We're already here. Like, we got to get this job done. So, of course, you know, we just go into it, man. And we got so sunburned. And I mean, the next day we were just like worthless almost. I come in looking like from the desert, you know. I put a hat, or not a hat, but I put a hat on, and I put a t-shirt so it'd cover my neck. I had a long sleeve shirt on because my arms were getting burned. I had pants on because my legs were back, and my legs were all burned. Oh, it was miserable. And then the next week came, and it was like, dude, we should have waited a whole week. So, something to always think about when you're in business. You really got to pay attention, especially if you're doing this kind of stuff. Typically, you got to watch the weather a lot. So you don't want to. That's why I'm always telling you, it's like driving a ship. That's all I ever think about when I think about business, at least in this kind of business. I always think of the Deadliest Catch, right? Didn't you guys ever watch Deadliest Catch? I don't know if Deadliest Catch is still on the Discovery Channel. I used to watch it a lot when I used to live at home. And that's what it just reminds me of, you know, Captain Phil, or who's some of those other guys out there. There was, what was that one ship that had the 2 brothers? I'm trying to think what that one was called. The Bandit? Was it Bandit? The Bandit. I think it was Bandit. But anyways, you know, that's what it feels like. You're like in this ship, right? And you're watching the crew, and you're listening to the motors, and you got to reverse, and you got to go forward, and you're watching the radar, and it's just, there's a million things moving, it seems like. So, slow here. I wonder why it's slow. It seems like, is it just that time of year? You know, we went through our spring rush because I noticed it's not super. There's not nothing super crazy going on. It's definitely we're finally catching up. It's starting to. I don't want to say we're like really quite slow yet, just because we still have commercial that is still pretty the WAR one, the GOV. The GOV still got quite a bit of stuff in the pipeline. It was funny because that company too. It popped up on my phone a couple days, and I just thought it was funny. It said, you know, their stocks at an all-time high, and I thought, yeah, I know why their stocks at an all-time high. You know, throwing those missiles. You know what I mean? Airplanes and all that kind of stuff. That's why. But yeah, it's residential is definitely like there's some doors next week. I don't know what else I see on there. Some openers. Had a genie. We did have a genie die. That'll be coming out eventually. But we did have a genie. Just out of warranty, man. Just out of warranty. Screw drive too. It puked. 6 years old and the circuit board went. Not good. Not good. This is slow spring. It picked up now. Got footing done. Ooh, shop. Nice. What was the size of the building again, Tanner? I was thinking about it. Oh, I don't think I got the dimensions. It's on my phone. We were in a building where this genie screw drive died. I was like, this is a nice size building. I was like, it's not overly big, but it's not too small. I was like, this is nice. I almost thought I wanted to see if they wanted to rent it, because they just like, it's like an old retired the lumberyard. And I was like, man, this is pretty nice. Oh yeah, so what's he got here? 72. I think this one was 70 by, it was something like that, 120, 160. That's a nice size. Nice size. I'll look it up here in a second, maybe. Soldier? Oh yeah, soldier. Right, because I got the green on. This is the river. Come join us at the Little River. Let me check this out. I'll be right back if I freeze. 70. It was 70 by 120. That's gonna be a nice sized building. That's what this building was, 70 by 120. I measured it. I was like, this building just feels great. Like it just felt. The one thing that was nice about this building, which was kind of cool, I think it had pass-through doors. Back in the day, the back ones don't work anymore, but it had pass-through doors. And then I think it had 15-foot ceilings? Yeah, it had 15-foot ceilings. How tall are you gonna go, Tanner? How tall is your ceilings gonna be? So this was 15. I think it was some kind of flat / slant. I didn't see no drains. So I was like, oh, that's weird. But nice building. But what was nice is it was a lumber, so it had all the racks. And all I kept seeing with the racks is like, I was like, man, you could put like fence stuff in there. I was like, you could put track in there. You probably could get some that you could put door sections in there. I was like, man, this is like really nice. Opened this where they didn't want to repair it. Back and found where off limit switch. Whoa, that scared me. And bad RPM sensor. Fixed it. Save it to resell. There's a nice LiftMaster in the scrapper. I don't know what's wrong with it. Nice old style LiftMaster. I did bid one for a genie, a used genie that we can't use because 8 foot, we went to 10 foot. And I don't know what the guy's doing. He hasn't responded back. Maybe we just weren't low enough. But yeah, it is what it is. Next to acres, so I have 4 lots now. If we want to add on, yeah, it might be. It's kind of a hard dilemma You know, I mean, I guess you always got the option. It's kind of like this building. I'm worried if we add on, they're gonna make the trusses have to be changed a little bit. Maybe all of them, maybe a little bit back. The township would, because then you got snow load if you went higher. But then I think about the enclosed trailers, because then we could park in that little shop if we use the trailers for material, and then we could avoid the tax man, the tax man, because all they do is tax you to death. Those little boogers. But of course, if you really want to go, the neighbor guys, probably his place might go too. But I think honestly, it'd be cheaper just to build something. That's the way it looks. If it was to go that route. Did you? I don't think you put on here though, Tanner. What? Oh, you do have 16 foot. Sorry. Sidewalls. That'd be nice. That'd be nice. You gotta get a lift in there. I really like to have a lift. That's especially if you gotta work on trucks. Old building I rehab for. Oh yeah, from storage. Oh yeah, yeah. Wait till that. The tax assessor. Is that what it is? Oh, they love it. They love it. They love it. They eat it up. I tell you what, that's one thing that gets old. I remember years ago. I was really grinding, super just super exhausted, man. Just those 14, 17 hours a day. I get done with work, I go home. I got my uncle's rehabbing my house, and I always know, he knows the tricks, But he always told me, he said, Dave, he said, don't ever put lumber out. Don't throw like you're tearing out a wall or something. Don't throw that out front, because he says that's like the first indication that they know you're doing something, and they'll red tag you, red tag you, red flag you, something like that. They'll shut you down. You got to get a permit, blah blah blah. All right. Well, we don't do that. Right? Make sure everything gets either tossed out back or in trailers or whatever. And I come home super exhausted. I don't think nobody was even home yet. I don't know if I was single, dating. I don't know what the scenario was at the time. And there's a business card. I remember it just so vividly on my door, and it's on my back door, and it's stuck in the weather seal. Like there's my door was because it used to be our office, so like it had a mud room, and it was like it was an automatic sliding door, or I mean automatic swing door, with an auto closer on it in a sense. And that card's sitting there, and I pull that card out. I'm like, who the hell is this? And it says tax assessor. I'm like, fudge. I got curtains open. I got a room that's got studs. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, they're going to call the township. They're going to be like, what are you doing? You're adding a room. You're doing another bathroom, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, man. And at the time, man, it felt life-changing, especially when you're young. I'm like, I ain't got time for this. Like, I'm trying to run a business. Like, I got money coming in, I got money going out, and I'm dying. And it said on the back, handwritten, it says, call me. I'm like, oh. So, of course, I got to simmer with that all night, right? That's the way to go home, right? Because it's like 6 o'clock or whatever it is, time I get home. Might even been later. But, now I'm like sitting there like, fudge, all night, like, what is this guy gonna ask me? What does he want? What is he gonna tell me? You're in violation. I gotta report this to the township. This is luckily it didn't go so bad. He ended up saying something about the garage. Looks like it's not a rec room anymore. Now it's actually a garage. And I said yes. He goes, well, that should lower your taxes. And I'm like, thank you. And then he was asking me about bathrooms, which it technically had to, but it was only signed up as one, so kept it that way. He says, does it still have just the one bathroom? Yep, sure does. Yep, sure does. Mm-hmm. Yep. see if they say anything about the building permits. Tell the office my personal gym. Use it for work. He says, I'm thinking we won't have room for a car lift yet. And I want to do a big wash bay with a lift and tire, it says. You know, I was thinking about, we got so many damn tires we're always messing with. I think about getting a damn tire machine. Especially if we do some winters with studs, might have to, you know, it's just easier to do a tire machine. I've done them with the bars, man. It's a lot of work. Pretty light. Yeah, it's still pretty light here. Maybe it's the clouds. Maybe you got more clouds down that way. It looks less cloudy north, more cloudy kind of south. Was it southwest? I know. I was always thinking when I used to work at the township, they had a brand new building, and they always had like a brick. I always wanted to do like a brick wall as like a wash bay, and not make it probably go all the way to the ceiling, just a partial, you know, whatever, 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet, just to help let the fumes, you know, when you're spraying, but just have it so it's all set up for a power washer. You know, if you could have it where it had like a underbelly spray, that'd be kind of nice. But I don't know. It's a hard balance. You know what I mean? It's like, do you just buy new and don't deal with that bull crap and just run them for 3 years or whatever it takes till you get to 60 or 80,000, and you just send them to the curb? You know what I mean? Because the old vehicles kind of suck. You know, you got to change, you got to get on the fluids, all the fluids. You got to, you know, it's like, I was thinking the other day, I was like, I don't know when's the last time I ever changed a fuel filter. And I thought, ooh, like that's something that you should probably consider. You know, that could be a can of worms. You know how that goes. I'm gonna turn the air on here. She's just starting to warm up a little bit. Hopefully if this wind bothers you, let me know. Oh, I don't have I don't know if I have I do somewhere. I just don't have it with me at the moment on me. Spin to the roof, all the walls, brand new electric. Yeah, just kind of, you know how it is. It's all human. It's all human base. It's all what they, you know. I mean, if you're probably not getting no flack right now, it's, you know, it's either because you don't have any neighbors, or you got good neighbors, or they just don't care. You know what I mean? That's the big thing. If you get somebody that starts complaining, it can make your life absolute hell. That's just how it goes. But that's why I'm always like, this is just me personally, like for houses and stuff like that or whatever, you know, as much as you can, out of sight, out of mind. You know what the best neighbors are? The neighbors that you can't see or don't have. You know, because then you just have freedom, in my opinion. I think they want you to get friends when you deal with load-bearing walls. I don't know. I can't say. When I was in my building class, you know, they wanted you to get a permit. The drywallers at the time didn't have to get a permit, but the painters had to get a permit. If you change the carpet, at least in our area, if you change the carpet in your house, you're supposed to get a permit. Now, the one township not too far away, they don't care if you're changing a garage door. They don't care if you're changing a window. And that's you're not even changing the size. You're just replacing it. It's just replace. I'm not changing. I'm not altering it. I'm just replacing it. Nope. Time out. For them, it's a big nope. In that township, that guy wants you to get a permit for everything. Garage door, man door, windows, everything. You know what I mean? Now, other townships aren't like too bad. They typically, like, you can replace a garage door. They're not going to bark at you. You can replace a window. They're not going to bark at you, as long as you don't make it wider or bigger, changing the header, stuff like that. What's up, Bert? What's been new? You been working? What's up? What's up? Said hi. TGD's here. What's going on? Evan's in the house. What's up, Mr. Evan? Hope you're doing good. Anything this last week or anything lined up next week? I should ask. I don't know if anybody's experienced this since we got a little buffet going here with people, but something that crossed my mind because I was talking with PT and Evan, and I was kind of going through this whole scenario, and it dawned on me. I thought, I went through the Service Spring book. I was like, there's like 6 different wall controllers for LiftMaster. And I thought there's probably more if you add Chamberlain. I don't know if they're quite exactly the same or they got different labels on them. They say Chamberlain. But I thought, LiftMaster's got like 6 wall buttons. The ones in your garage you push, not the keypad, the wall button. And I was thinking to myself, I thought, okay, besides the new ones, the 3.0s or the Bluetooth or anything, I thought, can you take all those keypads? Are those all interchangeable? I know they won't have the certain, like some don't have the hemisphere on them, but I just thought, I know the openers don't work without the wall button being, it's got to have the circuit board. But I just never done that. It's like, it's always like a big red flag now for all the guys, for myself, whatever. It's like, whoa, if the wall button goes bad, it's like, whoa, you got to order the exact same one. Nope. And I just didn't know if you could just put any LiftMaster or Chamberlain and you'd be okay. If the circuitry would work to let it know, hey, I'm here, I'm present, and to work. Because I was talking to Cap, he came in today. He was working, he had to change out, guess what? A circuit board, 2 circuit boards, and a barrier arm, LiftMaster, of course. Didn't even make it 6 months. And he's still not finished because the safeties, something's going on with the safeties. I don't know if he didn't get it turned on or something. He's gonna check it out Monday. But anyways, I was thinking, we were talking about Genie. He goes, well, Elise goes, hell, he goes, like Genie's, they've used the same, he said, what did he say? He said their same remote since like 1995. He's like, you can use a remote from 1995 all the way to present and it'll link up to it. I was like, that's a good point. And I know the wall buttons have changed a little bit, but as far as I know, Chamberlain or Genie still does the dry contacts where you can just take 2 wires and touch it. You can put a doorbell on it. You can put whatever kind of wall button. And I was thinking about Genie today, and I thought, even though Genie ticked me off that 6 years, just out of warranty, called them up, and the lady's like, it was installed in 2020. And I'm like, yeah, car manufacturers. But I just thought, I was trying to be humble, and I said, thank you, Genie, for keeping stuff just simple and keeping it the same and not changing nothing dramatically and crazy. Thank you, Genie. Thank you. I need to come up with a little thing I can rub. Remember that one guy who was a Jim Cramer? And it'd be like, he had the buttons, right? Sell. Buy. I need like my little Genie and be like, your wish is my command. You're welcome, or something, Just seeing a few tire machines. I see a few like aftermarket ones. It's kind of weird though, because there's a guy that's in like, he's somewhere down there. He's like Battle Creek, Kalamazoo, Michigan, something. And he's selling like a kit. He'll sell like both the tire machine and then the balancer for, I don't know what it is. If it's like $1,700 or $2,400, I can't remember. But if you could also kind of buy it through Amazon, and it's maybe just a little bit cheaper. Now you might, and I was reading his profile thing or whatever, as a description, and it was like, you can buy it with not being put together. And it was, I don't know, it was like $200-300. I was like, I don't know, I kind of like it just being put together. Like, I don't really want to think about how this Chinese thing goes together. And I just don't know enough about them. I know those Coast. I think that's what I always used when I used to work at like Penske. We worked at Discount Tire. We always had those, and those were good machines. I'm sure they're built like tanks and, built for robust, but it's always that weird, hard, like, you don't use it that much. So you just buy something that's cheap and gets her done, but it's all new. Fresh seals, fresh everything, or do you buy the old ticker that's leaking and now you got to find seals and you got to take it apart, and yeah, it's built better, but it needs parts. I don't know. It's a hard balance. 73. It was a nice day today. I was in the shade. It was just a really nice day. Derman. guys do oil filter every 5,000 and fuel filter every other about 10,000 miles. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. Yep. Yep. I used to do fuel filter about every other. When I had my the Ford, and I had the Cummins. You know, diesels, man, they're, like I said, they're a different animal. Like I said, I remember, but that's why I don't know, I just got burned. Like I said, I don't pull enough, you know, but it was just like, man, it's like by the time you buy, you know, you do oil, I mean, those babies, I mean, I forget what the Cummins took. It was like 17, 14 quarts or something. Holy moly. And it's like, I'm sitting there, you know, by the time I did all the maintenance, I'm sitting there, I'm kind of like going like, God, how much I spent on oil and filters. And I'm sitting there going like, damn, if I would have spread that across a gasoline truck, you know, like, I don't know. It was always kind of a weird, like, I don't know. And the smell, you know what I mean? That was one thing too, is we actually had we had a nice garage when I had my diesel. Man, you know, you didn't want to like fire that thing up in there, man. Yeah, God damn it, thing stinks. Shut it off. Eyes are burning. Goofy delivers papers. Awake at all hours, keeps eye on place. Oh, nice. That's awesome, man. That's the best right there. If you can have a neighbor keeping an eye on stuff. Hell yeah, it's a good neighbor. Yeah, yeah. Rich B. Hey, I see we got 7 likes. Thank you guys for hitting the like button. That's right, Rich B. That is right. It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Absolutely. I remember I learned that a long time ago from a guy that had multiple buildings, commercial buildings, and I did work for him and stuff. And you know, he'd always, you know, take me by the arm, you know, bring me around his arm sometimes, like, Dave, let me tell you something. He's like, I'm getting like 10 truckloads of like sand delivered. I'm gonna make a beach. I'm like, he's like, I probably could get in trouble. He's like, but I'm just gonna do it, you know. I was just like, he's like, DNR, this and that. I'm just doing it, man. He's like, we'll see what comes from it. He's like, better just to do it and then ask for forgiveness afterwards. Be like, I didn't know. And I thought, yeah, okay. Wow, 10Ks. His first oil change probably soon. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Me and Rich B are just we're like cringing. Like, oh no! You're supposed to change the oil at 500 miles. That's his first one, because that's when the engine's breaking in. That's when you get the most contaminants through the motor. So you change it at 500. Then what was it? The guy talked about, do you change it at 1,000 or 3,000? And then you change it every 3,000. But hey, you know what I mean? If it's going to be a lease or you're planning on dumping it, forget it. You know what I mean? Like I said. But if you want to keep it long term, you might be already behind the 8 ball a little bit. Like I said, you want to get that. It always, you know what always got to me is I remember when I used to clean a beauty salon with my mom when I was a kid. And my mom would always tell me, she'd go, David, she goes, you can't clean the floor with dirty water. And I always remember listening to the oil guy and stuff I watch online and stuff, you know. And the thing is, once your oil is contaminated, right, it holds debris. Or like the one guy says, when your transmission fluid's dirty, you're running liquid sandpaper through it. So you got to always remember, you got to get that fluid out of there. You got to get the contaminants out of there. But just remember, your next vehicle or whatever, 500 miles, that's because they don't break the engines in for you. You know what I mean? So you're going to get all the heavy copper and iron and whatever else is in there. Silicate, I think they call it. All that stuff is going to break loose, and you want to get that out of the engine. So just something to know, kids. And don't listen to the manufacturer's recommendation, especially if you have a smaller motor that's under higher pressure, that has a turbo. If you have a turbo, it's absolutely crucial you keep clean oil in it. You know what I mean? Clean oil, a good oil filter, even can up the weight. If they're telling you run a 020, I don't run that 020 shit anymore. I run 530. That's the minimum I go. 530, most of the stuff runs 1030. or July. August will be busy. Nice. Money grab. That's right. That's how the inspectors get like commission or something. They get money off that stuff. Neighbors, right? They bought us. Oh, apple pie. Name Ruby. Oh, that's cool. Those neighbors are great until they sell their houses to the Jones. Put the 2.0 doorbell button on 8:30 because it was middle spring. All I had. And it worked, huh? Haven't had a call 2 weeks. It's been really rough. Yeah, it's like I said, it definitely seems kind of. I'm not getting a real good, you know, a real good vibe on stuff. You know what I mean? But how can you, right? What is it? I mean, what's new? What's new in the news, right? Probably another 2 weeks. We're supposed to run out of oil, which I guess it's not. It's just jet fuel and diesel. So maybe our Twinkies won't come to the grocery store as quick as we want. But then it's the straits are open, the straits are closed. I don't even know how we're here. I don't even know how we deal with this stuff. I don't know why we're not, you know, having our fun with our pitchforks. I just can't believe this is where we're at. We looking to do go business and sell some work. Google. I've done a little bit. I haven't done much. The Facebook stuff's even kind of just, you know, I haven't really been pushing it, so there's not much there. But it definitely seems like it has tapered off. I don't know, you know, and it's weird. Sometimes, you know, we got like what, 4th of July coming up. So sometimes people are like, it's almost like they're trying to save all the money they can for that. Oh, they rather have fun, you know, rather get, you know, gasoline for the boat, rather get the hot dogs and bread and got to get a few chairs, you know, instead of like, well, that's fine. We can still park outside. We got a lease, you know, so it's always a weird balance for, the holidays, you know what I mean? So and then with this heat, that might not help. It's hard to say. I remember the mechanic one time, I think he had a valid point one time. The mechanic told me, I said, you guys get busy when it's like, when the weather? And he's like, oh yeah. He goes, yeah. He goes, well, Dave, he goes, just imagine, he goes, when it's really crappy weather, you know, he's like, nobody wants to work outside and work on their brakes. He's like, so they bring them, you know, and I was like, that's a good point. Like, I did some brakes today and I was outside. But if it was really crappy weather, I would not want to do it. I'd probably just send it down to the mechanic. Well, the problem is the good mechanic right now, he's got problems. He lost 2 guys, and it was kind of somewhat family related a little bit. So it's like, ooh, it's like, do you want to send anything his way right now? I don't know. I got a question though for Rich B. Rich, have you ever rebuilt a transmission? This he's done a lot. HVAC, you name it. Has anybody rebuilt a transmission? I really want to do it, but I feel like I'm not qualified enough. Maybe a few more YouTube videos, and a case of beer, and I'll have it. But I really want to do one. I think they're less picky than an engine. I see guys throwing parts in them and drilling a little bit here and there, but I don't see them like running mics and, you know, I see with motors and, you know, so I just keep thinking, but I don't know. We'll see what time allows. Facebook next door, big in your area. I wonder, I haven't heard of next door in a while. That's kind of funny they say that. I should check next door. It kind of went silent. I haven't like played with it, so it's, I don't know. Yeah, I just have that easy button. Grand Junction, Colorado. Ooh, got a little rain. We are gonna need some rain pretty soon. We're gonna be getting pretty close. Yup, Google. Good old Yelp. I know. Yelp is like, but I guess, you know what I mean? I don't know how Yelp can hurt you, I guess, in a sense. I just don't hear people really have good success. But a buddy of mine, he closed a business, and I just went to search to see if he fired it back up, or just see if it's still out there on the Google, and Yelp still pulled it up. But it said closed, and I thought, but it said 9 to 5 or something. So I'm like, well, is it closed permanently, or is it closed like just it opens back up? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's gone. What's Tanner got here? Ooh, have you went into your local lumberyard, get on their good side? We'll start throwing you work. New lumberyard. Town had us doing doors. Now just quote all doors through us. You know, it's kind of weird that you bring that up, Tanner. I just met a gentleman, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know exactly how this works, but he sells in his Haas. He sells, and I don't know how many there is. I would assume 3, 4, 5, 6 locations. We had a lumber company not too far from the shop that got bought out, and I think he's supplying the doors for them. And I don't know what kind of money he makes off that or anything, but I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, good for him. Like, that's awesome. So, but I'm surprised, like, they wouldn't just go, but maybe they wouldn't want to. Like, I always thought we could do that because, like, then they don't got to deal with, like, you know what I mean? They got to call, like, you know what I mean? They just call, like, a rep, basically, and it's like, hey, I got a problem. They're like, not a problem. We'll bring you another one, or we'll swap it out, or I'll go to the job site, or, you know what I mean? I think there could be a market there. Website, look. Doing the install, the customer is doing. Oh, so that's probably kind of answering right there. They sell them or receiving for something, you know, if the customer is doing the install. For sure. It looks good, I think. Smiles or moose material or most meters. Oh, gotcha. I believe it's miles, Rusty. You could wire exhaust fan into light on operator. Ooh, for the diesel fumes. I seen a guy. He had at his place. He had a bunch of strip lights, you know, like 3 or 4 of them. You know, the LEDs. He had it all wired into the socket on the opener, so it lit up really bright in the whole garage. I was like, holy cow! I was like, I don't know if that's ingenious or that's a fire hazard, but that's pretty cool. Can you hear that rattle? My blower motor's got a little rattle to it. What's this dude doing? That was weird. That's how I got work. I was installing for 5 different lumber yards, some smaller, Menards, spreads fast. If it is ordered. Heck yeah. Yeah, it does. I mean, that was like great. That's why I was like doing Lowe's. Now Lowe's, you got to have like $1 million policy or more. Now I don't know what their thing is. They don't pay the best, you know what I mean? But I mean, they were salespeople for you. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have to. You just like, they were just. I mean, I remember we'd have people call up and, hi, we're home advisor. And I'd be like, yeah, we're like 2 years out. Like, well, wouldn't you want more bit? We're 2 years out, dude. Like, we can't even do what we're supposed to be doing right now. Like, we are so busy. What would you? Like, we work for Lowe's. We're contractors for Lowe's. Like, we're just, what do you, like, do you not understand? Like, you know, like, we don't need more advertising. Like, we need, you know, we need more workers. Wrong or missing parts is not on you. To wipe the slate with Wipe the slate clean with yeah, well, you know how it is. There's a lot of moving parts in that bad boy. Who knows what's going on over there? Yeah, 10,000 miles on an oil change is crazy. Yeah, you really don't want to do that for the first round of them. That's for sure. I mean, I didn't really think of it either, but then I started thinking about it. I thought, yeah, you're breaking in. I mean, you got all the stuff scraping and, you know, trying to find its, you know, you're breaking it in. So you want to get those contaminants out of there. And like I said, I'm still a big 3,000 mile, you know, diesel. Yeah, I could probably, I do 3,000 still with diesel. You know what I mean? But that's just me. I'm overkill. You know what I mean? Because diesel gets dirty so nasty and so fast. Plus, it got turbo. And I don't try to use like a premium. I thought about trying some AMSOIL, but it's kind of expensive. You know, I don't know what AMSOIL has for just like a basic brand. Otherwise, biggest thing is just keep the oil moving. You know what I mean? Get the contaminants out of it. So. No trades for me. I don't blame you. 10 miles diesel pickups, but I don't believe in. I do 5-6 oil filter every time. Fuel filter, no. Semi, I think 10,000 would be okay. Oil change, yeah. The biggest thing is, like I said, you know, it just depends. I got one of those. I use the oil, so to me it's like a double. You know, I get to use it for heat. But then, like I said, oil to me is, you know, it's kind of cheap compared to what engines and stuff cost. And these things have so many small passages, and you know, the new ones, at least with gasoline, VVTs or whatever they call it, you know, and all that stuff. So keeping it clean is the big thing. You know what I mean? I'm not even so big of a fan that it's like you got to use the most premium oil. It's just you got to keep the oil clean. You got to get it moving out of there. You know, because I liked it when the one guy, he just says, hey, you pull out your dipstick. What's your dipstick showing and stuff like that. That's a good way too. Is it starting to look dirty? Does it have a smell to it? Smell like gasoline, like the Nissan? The Nissan's probably got something with it. I don't know what. It always smells gassy. So I change it. I change it every 3,000. You know, but this thing also has a very small capacity for oil. So you think about little capacity, a lot more contaminants can get in that little capacity. You know, I think of it as, think about like a mop bucket, right? You mop the floor, the mop bucket gets, but if you were mopping and putting it into a pool, you'd be like, man, I'm never getting this pool dirty. This water still looks pretty clean. You know what I mean? But in a bucket, because it's more concentrated, it's less volume. You know, that's kind of how I think of it. So, you know, that's why like diesels probably, you know, in a nutshell, they take so much oil, so they have more capacity. But you got to remember, these car manufacturers are lying to you, and they are just looking at stuff out of warranty, because once it's out of warranty, what do they care? That's good business for them to have the motor blow up or whatever, and then, you know, you come back and it just looks good on paper for whatever reason, right? There's somebody out there that has a daughter or a son or whatever, and they're going to go buy a car, and they're like, you know, it only cost about $600 to run this car besides gasoline, you know, and somebody's like, $600, that's it? Wow, that's really cheap. Well, yeah, I mean, you only have to, I mean, how many miles do you put on? Well, you only really need to do one oil change a year or 2 oil changes a year. Oh, wow, that's great. This car is fantastic. And they just have no clue that this is just a salesperson. He's just trying to get you to sign the paperwork. They don't care about longevity. You know what I mean? Like, it looks good on paper to, you know, run it this long, but it's not. That's like when the Wifetron got her van, and I mean, even when it was a lease, because we didn't know. So I played it safe, and I'm glad we did. But we didn't know. And she's like, well, they're saying like, I think they were at 10,000. I think that was 10,000. I was like, hell no. I was like, we are not doing. Now, I didn't do the 500 or 1,000. Didn't know it at the time. Wish I would have. But I just told her, I said, she was hitting 5,000. I said, take it in. And she goes, well, they're not going to cover it. It's not going to be free. I don't give a shit. I said, take it in. I said, we'll pay for it, and then we'll get a free one again, and we'll pay for it. We'll get a free one. I said, you ain't going 10,000 miles. I said, that's ridiculous. I said, you know, and so I'm really glad, because so far her car, you know, I think she's at 140 now. And knock on wood, nothing. I mean, we had a fluke water pump, I guess, at like 160, or I'm sorry, at 60, not 160 water pump, and then after that, been really good, no problems. You know what I mean? Just the normal brakes and tires, and I think one wheel bearing in the rear. Every week, what got? Yeah, we're doing for our lumber yard. They used to do Midland. I had to go through, but our co-pay now, pricing. What was that? Oh, okay, pricing, and we're off to the races. Had people stop in last week. Water styles. Oh, nice. What the heck is that? Must be fireworks out there. If you sell, what is something like, if you're selling them to the lumber yard, because I'm assuming I'm understanding this correctly. So if you're selling them to the lumber yard, Tanner, what's like the average, like what are you making on like a 16x7? Let's just say non-insulated or steel back or something. Are you making like $20 off the what is kind of the, and then how does it work for logistics? How are you getting the stuff delivered there? Are you guys delivering the stuff there? Are you having the truck just go there under you, or how's that? I'm just kind of curious. Lights on my light socket, the LED, less watts than a bulb. That's what I kind of figured when I seen the LED. I thought that's probably what he's doing. I was like, the LED's probably not pulling that much juice. Oh, sweet. We got 8 lights too. Awesome. For a Saturday. Woohoo! That's awesome. I'll go Home Depot and Lowe's and see if they have work for me. Well, here's the thing. Just put it, Bert, I'm not trying to burst your bubble here. If you do Home Depot or Lowe's, so there's going to be kind of a difference, right? You kind of have your local lumber yards, right? The little guys that are just one, that's the only one in your town or general area, or maybe they got 2 or 3 or something. Not the big box store. Not to say you can't do the box store, but if you do the box store, this is how it was for me anyways. You got to remember, they're going to have a set price. So we used to get like, gosh, what did we get? We used to get like $76 or something like that, or $84. I can't quite remember. To install a residential garage door opener. That was it. That was all they give you, right? And that was like within a 20-mile radius. Anything outside that, they charge a little bit more, but you had to make sure you build for it, blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't as great. Not saying it's not bad for a single guy, but what I'm trying to get at is you need insurance. And I don't know if you have the insurance high enough for that. You got to have $1 million coverage. You got a lot of paperwork you got to do to make this thing happen. Like it's almost like a week-long full-time person, secretary, woman, to sit there and go back and forth and with the insurance company and just getting everything. It's undoable, but that's even if they'll let you in. Now, so for us, I didn't know this. The reason we got in is because at the time, Lowe's was using Wayne Dalton. Well, we were big into Wayne Dalton, so it was like a shoe-in. So the guy asked me, he's just like, you want to do them? And I'm like, yeah, like we'll do them. All right, I'll make a phone call. You know what I mean? But if we, we had some pulling power. It's not to say you can't, because I got a few other stores, but they're still kind of the same thing. We were already in the system, so it looked good. It was fast, easy. But with like Tanner's talking, like the local lumber guys, the smaller guys, if you go in there, like that's always a good reason. Like if you need to get some screws or something, or get a little something, stop in there. Even if you just showing face, just not to show the whole sales thing always, like you're just showing up just because you want something. You do a little business, you wear a shirt, and they kind of, oh, what do you do? I do garage doors. Really? Well, hey, Johnny, weren't you looking at the guy in here earlier looking for somebody? And, oh, Harold quit, a couple months back. Hey, can we get a card from you? And then things kind of start kicking off from there, Better product. Lumberyards work. I got more business from them. The box stores I found with the box stores, they were cheaper people. Yeah, that's probably true too. Does anyone know if there are great oil change on Tesla? Ooh, I should never thought about that. Oh, never thought about that either. I don't know on the Tesla. I know they catch on fire occasionally. Maybe brake fluid. Yeah, maybe some brake fluid. Also, we only have one or two, so let's see what I have. Yeah, even if you have one or two, you never know. You know what I mean? If they get you 2 customers a week or 2 customers a month, I mean, it starts adding up. Leaving Monday. What's he doing over in this neck of the woods? What's he got? It's really nice up here right now. It's not going to be Monday or something. It's going to be hot. Here's the go. Used to use mobile one. Change filter. Quart. Wow, 100K sold it. Someone ran it for a long time. I had to replace the head gasket. Pulled it. Oh yeah. Part. And looked like new. Heck yeah. Yeah, Mobile One was always a good oil too. Yeah, I used to do a lot of Mobile One when I worked at Penske. I don't have nothing against. I've kind of went to. If you said what's your favorite oil, Dave, I'd say probably right now it'd be Amsoil or Valvoline. I've always been a good Valvoline. You know what I mean? Just Valvoline always. You know, I guess I probably was more Quaker State and Mobile One, but Quaker State has ash in it, as far as I know. Maybe they all do, but this one I was so disappointed when I cleaned off my valve covers and stuff, and I don't know, they were leaking again, so I took them back off. There was already crud back on the valve covers, and I think that's that ash, and I was so bummed. I was like, what the heck? I was like, I only put like whatever, it was like 5,000 or 10,000 miles on the truck, and now I got the crud in my valve covers again. So that turned me off from Quaker State. I left Quaker State years ago, so I've always been kind of a, you know, Valvoline, or I've noticed the wife, her van. I was using Amsoil. That went to that other Schaefer's. I think it's Schaefer's. And I noticed some stuff on the valve or on the cap that I didn't really like. And so I just was using this stuff up because I had it. And now I'm thinking we might go back to the Amsoil because I didn't see that. Don't remember seeing it. So not 100% sure, but big thing. Just keep it changed. She's due actually. I got to change hers. She's at 3,000. Honestly, no idea. Just do 10. Okay. Got a lot of housing material I'm gonna be getting from them with all the work I'm having done. I'm a new house. Oh no. Waiting to hear back on customer to give me 4-star review. Review was positive and had no complaints. Well, tell them to get on it. That's right, keeps you humble. Some Menards, getting some random crap, and I went to get back in a truck, and the guy stopped me. Hey, truck logo matches my shirt. He was, you guys keen, what'd he say? And fixed my door. Well, back, I don't think I want to place it. Gave him my card. Yeah, see? It's back to my day. Yeah, so that's good. That's good. You know, that's what I mean. Those are the things like, you know, and so there's just to kind of give you guys like the other side of that too. So like with Tanner doing that, like that's great. That's great for business. But for me, this is a personal thing. You know what I mean? I was so overwhelmed at one point that I didn't, you know what I mean? Like I wanted to have a weekend and I wanted it to be my weekend. I didn't want to think about work. I didn't want to talk about garage doors. I didn't want to talk, you know. And so that was the problem I had too, like with the Raptor, is people would be approaching me. And, you know, for me, I got the wife, I got a kid, I got poopy diapers, I got, you know what I mean? Like, and people are like walking up like, hey, you know, nice truck. And hey, do you got it? And it's like, dude, like, all right, like go away. You know what I mean? And so sometimes it can be, it's just on the other side of that when, you know, when you're when you get busy with certain stuff, it can be kind of a real pain, you know, where you don't even want that stuff to be a part of your life. Somehow I hit the damn button. But also on the other side of it, all the time, like the weekend's sometimes really good, because that's when a lot of different people are out, right? During the week, it's just either contractors, or you might get a few hit and miss older people. But the weekend, everybody, you got to hold, you know, you got the people that normally be at work, and now they're out, so they see stuff, they're seeing your truck, or you got shirts on and stuff, and you're, you know, so that's good. It drums up business, you know what I mean? But that's like with me, like I don't drive a marked, you know, I guess it was one of those things, and this is just my weird conspiracy. When I was, I don't remember how I thought of this, but I was thinking one time when I was out driving, and you guys, you know how you get weird things you just think about, right? Random things. And I remember thinking, I thought, you know, geez, you know, I'm surprised, like a lot of people don't have their cars, you know, marked. And then it kind of dawned on me, as, you know, I've, you know, dealt with real estate, and I've gotten into bigger, you know, other stuff. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm kind of thinking, like, I go, you know, like Warren Buffett don't have his car marked, you know, Ben Mala don't have his car marked, and you know, Grant Cardone don't even have, I think he has his helicopter, right? But I mean, come on, right? I mean, you know, you're at an airport, like who's gonna, they're just gonna see it, right? They're probably not gonna be residential people walking up to you. And I just thought, man, maybe that's like people want to be like, that's their business, but then they run, you know what I mean? They want that separation. And so because we had the minivan too at one time was wrapped, and then we got rid of that because it was just like, it just felt like you were just inundated all the time, you know what I mean? Because Pennsylvania, Pennzoil. Yeah, Pennzoil we never used. I was always told that's like for really hot climates, like that's in Arizona or something. I don't know how true that is. So I've never dealt with Pennzoil. Pennzoil was always like everything around here. We don't even have anything that's a really, I think there used to be one in Grand Haven. I don't know if it is anymore. We used to have one, but otherwise everybody was always Quaker State. That was always the big thing around. Quaker State, Valvoline, I think that was it. Pennzoil though, nobody uses Pennzoil. It's barely even, like you go into the mobile stores and stuff, that's very little and far few around here. I was using Castor. Been hard to get Castor. Yeah, that's what Scotty uses, right? Scotty Kimler. I never got onto Castor. I never had nothing against Castor. You know what I mean? I just never, I guess the Valvoline was always more available, you know? It seemed like it was more promoted, which doesn't mean nothing. So I've even been using, sometimes I just go to the Tractor Supply and get the 5-gallon buckets and get their 1030. I mean, it's weird because actually the 1540 meets the specification for a truck that I have versus, you know, than anything else. I couldn't find any, you know, so it's like, it's kind of weird how the cheaper, crappier oil you think would be, but it actually has the specs in it to meet, I don't know, it's just weird. So you never know. I don't know. Castor. Seeing a lot of sludged up motors. Yeah. Like I said, it was a personal, I was a big Quaker State because that's just what I kind of, you know, I worked with in the industry, and I kind of grew up on. I think my dad used Quaker State or something. I don't remember, you know, I grew up on it, you know, when we were working at the oil change place, and, you know, I was a big, just, you know, like that's all I knew, you know what I mean? So I just believed in it. And then I remember when I had my truck, and like I said, I took the valve cover off, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's all kinds of gunk in here. So I got them all cleaned. I scraped them really good. Didn't have a power wash or anything then, so I just must have scrubbed the crap out of them. Maybe used a little gasoline or something. Got them all nice and clean, real proud of myself. Put them on. Like I said, it wasn't very many miles. It was like 10,000 miles or something. They started leaking again. And I was like, man. So I took them off. You know, it's just that tin sheet metal on a 318, you know, little Dodge. And I couldn't believe when I looked at that Velcro. I was like, what the heck, man? I was like, there's crud on here. You know, I changed that. That was religious. You always change your oil at 3,000 miles. back then that's the normal. And so I was changing the oil, and I just couldn't believe, man, I seen that crud on there, and I was like, all right, I was like, I'm done with this. I'm done with you, Quaker State. And I was reading or something. I must have like learned it in a magazine or something. I know they didn't have Google, and somebody was telling me about ash. You know, they were saying there's a lot of ash in Quaker State, and I'm like, well, ash my ass. I was like, it ain't gonna be in my truck no more. I was like, ah, dirty crap, you know. No, it just depends on what kind of motor. You know what I mean? Like if you get the Wifatrons, like her oil's just got a little more tinge to it than when you put it in. You know what I mean? So her car is very efficient and clean. The Nissan has a smaller capacity. This thing only takes like, man, it's not very much. It's like, man, I don't know if it's like 4 or 5 quarts of oil for a 6-cylinder. You know, I mean, you look down there and you see the oil pan is very small. So it gets contaminated pretty fast. But so oil in this one will smell gassy, and it's always like it's ready to be changed. You can tell it's being diluted in a sense. I've never actually, I swear I've actually had the oil grow on this a little bit, so it's probably getting some kind of fuel dilution a little bit versus ever be down. It's never been down, never burned it. So my thing is obviously if it is getting gas diluted, I want to get it out of there. You know what I mean? And so that one, then like on a diesel, man, it doesn't seem like no matter what you do on a diesel, it's always black. But regardless, it's still turning black and it's still getting contaminants in it. It's dirty water, basically. Most of the vans do pretty good. I don't think any of the vans when I've touched those ones. But like right now, they're all within, like, I think they got 500 miles. So I think maybe next weekend I'm gonna switch out the oil in them, regardless if they're at the 3,000 or not. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna swap them out so they're all fresh, because Caps is gonna be getting used pretty heavily, I think, here soon. And he might be going possibly out of town and staying at like hotels and for a job that he's got going. So that one might be, you know, it's going to be out of our reach. My Jesus, gritty and Papa. Brush black, but Dave, my brother, on Holland visiting with his wife. Nice. That's awesome. You have to clean them with putty knife. That's how I did it, I think. I had something, I was scraping it. I remember it had scrape marks on it, and then it had that buildup again. But, you know, it's just something, like I said, you know, don't take it so much from me. I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you what my years of experiences are, and it just depends. Like for Evan, you know, like, I don't know if you're planning on keeping the truck. If you're planning on just, you know, turning it in after 50 or 60,000 or whatever, then screw it. You know what I mean? Like, go for it, man. You know what I mean? But there's some guys here in the U.S. I think the one's the car nut guy or something. I can't remember. He was talking about, you know, he deals with the oil geek guy and stuff like that. And I was thinking that is a very good point. You know, the break-in is, you know, 500 miles. So 500 miles, he dropped it. He did an analysis on it, and it had a lot of silicon. I'm going to say it's silicone, basically, and some other things that were in there that were really high. Then when he did his second oil change, it went down because those things are wearing off. They're getting flushed out of the system, basically. So I can see why it's important to get, you know, you can't go wrong with the old oil change, right? That and your transmission, probably every 30,000. I ain't gonna say I've done it. Sometimes I've gotten up to 60. And then get the transmission serviced. You don't have to do a full flush, you know, it's just drop the pan, put a filter, refill it. You know, you don't have to always do the full, you know, where they pump it and inject it. Sometimes that can do more damage than good if people don't know what they're doing. Things like that. I've cheated. I've actually I got a sucker. I'll shove it right down the pipe. You know what I mean? I'll suck out what's in the pan for fluid, and I'll just pour new fluid in. You know, but I liked how that one guy explained. That really stuck with me. In your transmission, he says, if your transmission fluid's dirty, he said, you're basically running liquid sandpaper through it. And I was like, yep. I was like, that is true. You know, because that fluid, so like Caps, van just got changed today. Actually, his rear end was really nasty. Probably never changed it. I don't know. It's probably the original fluid, and it had 100 and I don't know, it was right around 100,000. Did it over the winter, and it was super black. I was like, oh my gosh! Like, and then you gotta imagine though, he's got a big old, the cutaway there, and then he's pulling trailers and stuff. I mean, that baby gets used, and I swear the fluid feels like it's too thin. But it's a 75-140, and it doesn't even feel like gear lube. It feels watery. It feels, I don't know. It's what it's recommends, the Valvoline. It's got some additive in it for the slip, whatever. Anyways, I changed it. I made note of it. And so another thing you can do, I think this is more helpful to me because then I don't lose the crap. But I got all the vans. I do it for my personal truck too. And I go through and I make all my love notes. I do a date, I do the mileage. I got to go through and do caps. He's got new brakes. I'll do, and then this, you know what I mean? And then you got everything. These were like the kids at one time for school. I stole them or something, but like we got the Chevy Expresses on here, got everything, brake fluid, sucked and refilled, rotated tires, power steering, sucked and refilled, new air filter. This one had new TPM sensors, all 4 new each tire. Alltel had to buy a new scanner for the program because, yeah, that's how they are. So, but it's good to keep, and I like these because if you ever sell the vehicle, like I love when somebody hands me this because that means they try to do good maintenance. Because maintenance is key. Maintenance is key. Black is carbon. My original car I had when we went into construction business. On his own, we were putting in a door for him at garage. He's building in a couple weeks. Nice. What's up, Bailey? How you doing? What's business like? You guys busy? 3,000 if you love it, but no more than 5. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's perfect. Rich B, I love it. That's perfect. I agree. So that's like the wife of Tron is a little bit over 3,000. I mean, she's not much, but that's I'm you know what I mean? That's what I look at. Like you're in the 3. I try to stay closer to 3, but if she hits 4, well, it is what it is. I mean, if she got to 5, I wouldn't be real happy with myself, but like I said, I just rather get the contaminants out of it. Because you got to remember too, right? Like, you think about it, like for one, if you have a turbo, you got little bearings that are spinning this thing that's just getting super hot. What I mean? Think of the conditions and then think about how many revolutions those pistons up and down, bam, 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 bam. You know what I mean? And then think about, they talk about this, the shear factor, right? If you're using a lighter oil, the shear factor isn't there. You know what I mean? So that you got to watch, that oil doesn't last as long because you're using basically water. And so then, but you think about when those pistons are going up and down so many times and then they're exploding, right? There's an explosion there. And some of that stuff, that gases and carbon and debris is getting past those cylinders and it gets into your, into your oil. It contaminates your oil. You know what I mean? So it just happens over time, and then when the car either wears out, sometimes it gets kind of worse. So sometimes oil changes are even better for older cars a little bit, but sometimes when they start clacking and doing so many things, there's only so much you can do. But maintenance just never hurts. It's always like when the transmission starts slipping and then you start doing the service and then it still don't fix it. It needed service a long time ago. You know what I mean? It should have been maintained a long time ago. Oil and 5,000 for synthetic. That's what they say, but I still do 3,000. You know what I mean? If it's synthetic or conventional, I'm just a 3,000 guy. The wife would try and get synthetic. I still do 3,000 because to me, like I said, I can use it. I use it for heat, and then I just run it out of there. You know what I mean? It's just cheap insurance to me. I used to enjoy it. I don't really enjoy it as much. I still get a little, I mean, I like doing maintenance, but it's not as much as I used to. It all started when I worked at Penske. I used to love doing oil changes, and then when I had to do oil changes for a living, I absolutely hated doing my own oil change. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta change my own oil tonight. It sucks. Yeah, rear end. Yeah, the rear end fluid. Yeah, this stuff wasn't quite as black because I wrote in the notes to change it in the spring, which I think we just hit summer, close enough. So I checked it because I did the brakes, and then I checked the rear end fluid, and I was like, yeah, it looks kind of dirty. So I was like, we're gonna go ahead and change it. So I got the sucker, because I'm not tearing the damn cover off. I mean, yes, that's probably the real proper way and all that, but I found out that's ways you get leaks and crap. So I just suck it out, throw new fluid in. I'd rather change it more often, and that fluid gets contaminated, and then I'll just go from there. But if you tear the cover off, you know, sometimes you bend the metal, and if you don't get the right gasket, and then with the AutoZones of the world, I probably can't get a gasket. And then if I got to silicone it, and what if I don't dry it, let it dry long enough, or what if I get silicone in there, too much silicone, and then I got to clean it, I got to scrub it, so I don't do that. But you do whatever you want to do. Like I said, it's probably better to do it that way. Tear the cover off, spray it with spray clean, wipe it all out good. But I don't do that because I just want clean fluid. That's all I want. It's got detergent in it somewhat. I don't know how much detergent rear end fluid has, but it'll get contaminated. And I shuck it out again. I need a table. Is that for the transmission? I was looking at somebody has them. If you do a transmission, I'm probably not going to because I probably don't have the time. But man, I'd like to. I really do want to do one. Just never done one. I watched some videos on it. I'm like, man, it doesn't look like it's. I guess what I don't know is like there's certain components that I'm like, do you have to change it? Because if you change a certain thing like the solenoid part, it has to be flashed to the vehicle. And I was like, that doesn't sound like fun. But do you have to change that part? I was like, you probably don't have to, but should you? I don't know. I don't know how crucial it is to change that certain thing versus just doing O-rings and torque converter and the clutch pads and all that kind of stuff, and do a little bit of the upgrades for the high pressure valves, you know. Get killed by when you stop the engine, cools. Oh yeah, cooks on the, yeah. Right. That's why if you're working a turbo, which is like really weird because I'm probably, you know, I'm like the slowest guy on the road, I think. So, you know, it's like, I'm in the Nissan, man. What's she got on her now? She's got like 200 and, I think she got 230 on her. Oh no, she got 225. But, like this truck doesn't move. It's very underpowered, you know what I mean? And so it's like I watch all these SUVs and it's like they're like they're zooming. I'm like, I'm sorry, like my truck like I'm going the normal old speed, okay? Like if I go that fast, I got to downshift, I got to make this thing over rev, and I'm not going to do that. So like it's like there's like, and I'm thinking like how when I was watching a video a while back and they were saying, well, why are people buying these cars, these certain ones? And they were like, and this one's not selling. And they're like, the guy was kind of explaining, he goes, I bet it's because these ones are turbocharged. And when they get in there, the consumer, right, which I'm really believing, this is just my opinion, I'm really believing people are just getting so naive. I know somebody, I can't say who, but they're like this, right? Like they get in something, they're like, ooh, like look at the dash. And I'm like, yeah, forget the dash. I'm like, you know what's under the hood? Well, I don't know. Well, let's see if it starts. Oh, it runs. It sounds great. And then they drive it and they're like it's perfect. It really gets up. And how much does it get? It gets 20 miles to a gallon? No way. And I'm sitting there like, you're not gonna buy this, are you? Like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's really comfy. I like the color. And I'm like, you're not gonna buy this. Like, this has got the worst motor. I've heard just horrible things about this thing. Like, this is a horrible powertrain. Like, this thing's gonna be, but it's so nice. And I, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, and so anyways, when I'm out driving, I'm always thinking about people. They're like, I'm like, yeah, you can go faster than me. You can climb up on me. I'm like, just wait till that thing's in the shop, because that turbo's putting a lot more pressure on that little 3-cylinder, 4-cylinder motor. You know, I was like, we'll see if you make it to 230 without blowing a head gasket or the turbo. But you got to think about, but yeah, when you run them hard, you definitely need to let them sit and cool down a little bit and get that oil circulating. That's always a good thing for, I'm sure, the gas powered ones and the diesels. You know what I mean? A lot of the diesel guys know that, you know, if they're pulling hard with trailers and stuff or motor homes, you know, let it sit there and idle for a little bit. Road trip in my Kia. It ate most of the oil. I think what was it, Hyundai? I thought there was some of the Kias. They were having problems. I think they were just, some of the motors they were just replacing, you know what I mean? But they're kind of known. I had a Hyundai. Was it a Hyundai? A little booger. It was an older one though. That one was not a bad little car. You know, it did pretty good. It might have ate a little bit of oil, but for the most part, you know, it was a great little car. Started out I think the wife of John was driving it for a little bit until, I don't know, I know we had one kid, I believe. Second kid, I don't know if the second kid ever rode in it. You should idle down the motor, let the turbo cool down before shutting off. Yeah, I'm sure the same way, just like a diesel, right? You know, but that's the thing, is we're living in this world, like I said, a lot of people aren't thinking, you know, but some people just don't care, right? They like it right now. It gives them the zoom right now. It's like, what's the one, the Traverse? Isn't it the Chevy Traverse? Like, that one had all kinds of motor problems, and oh my gosh, I remember when I was in the mechanics one time, and he didn't even notice it. I'm sitting there and I'm like, what's wrong with this one? He's like, this is broke, you know, something's broke. Probably just gonna need another motor, Dave. It's like, by the time I got labor into it, I'm like, what are these chunks of metal right here? I was like, is that like the valves that are busted or something? He's like looking at it, he goes, Abby, he goes, well, yeah, he goes, definitely gonna need a motor now. He says, there ain't no way, you know, doing that. And by the time this thing already got contaminated with metal through it, I'm just like, you know, this is a pretty fairly new car, and I just thought, man, this is horrible that this engine's already failed. I don't even think it had 100,000 miles on it yet. And I was like, wow, that is really crappy for the person to be like, well, we got to put a motor, and it just turns into, you know, we don't repair anymore, just put a motor in it, put a motor in it, put a motor in it. Timer, ran electric oil pump for 5. Oh, engine shut off. Oh, I wonder who did that. Who was the manufacturer that used to do that? That'd sell it, or not just an add-on. That's what I think these openers are going to come to eventually. I think they're going to come to, like, we're going to have a subscription, and then the customers can't log into it. Like, they can't change something on it. We'll have to pair the wall button, right? We'll have to pair the wall button with the opener. You know, I think that's what's going to happen. Mark my words. So if I you know, get the old chopping block, I bet in the future, we'll have to pay for a subscription. We'll have to have some kind of scanner tool, and then we'll have to go to the customer. The customer's going to order some wall button off eBay or Amazon. They're going to change it. It's not going to work. They're not going to understand why it doesn't work. They're going to have to call us. That's if we have the subscription, or we're a certified dealer, right? And then we're gonna have to go there with our scanner. We're gonna have to hook up to it. I mean, Genie's already got, right, ports on the front of their openers that you could plug something into, I guess. One's for internet, and I think one's for diagnosing, is what I was told. I don't know how true that is. But you know, we'll have to plug in. We'll have to allow it for the wall button, you know what I mean, to accept the new wall button, just like the manufacturers are doing. Car manufacturers are doing it. You know what I mean? I think that's gonna be the future. Yeah, I think that's going to be the future. Timer, ran electric. Turbos aren't needed. Newer turbo vehicles because they are liquid cooled. I don't know about that. I mean, the liquid still gets hot. So I don't know. I wouldn't be chancing. I'd let it cool for a little bit, let it sit for a minute, you know, or something before I shut her down if I was running it hard. You know what I mean? I always thought about that, even like in my truck, right? When I get on the road or something, stomp on it, right? And I always thinking about those pistons, oh, you know, and they're just running, right? That metal in there, that pistons and that the jackets got really hot. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't want to shut, you know, I wouldn't want to shut the motor down right then when I pull in the driveway or something. I'd let the motor run a little bit, you know, let the air get through the radiator if I'm driving still. That's always better. So that way that liquid's still getting around the, oh, what do you call it? The, you know, the jackets of the piston, you know what I mean? So that way, you know, it's not just sitting there boiling, you know what I mean? The pistons are super hot and it's just sizzling, because then it caused that, cavitation? Who was the one that had problems with the cavitation recently? Was it Cummins? Somebody had sleeves on a diesel, I think it was, and they were having cavitation where the coolant was eating into the cylinder walls. I forget who that was, but I don't know. There's all kinds of weird things. I also seen, I didn't even know this, what was it, on the 6 liters? Which I don't know, you know, if Tanner's still here, you might want to look into it for the diesel, but they were showing something with the 6 liters that they were having some kind of corrosive. I was like, I never thought about that. And they were telling you to put some kind of, something in the coolant, and it helped keep it from eating at the walls of the engine block. And I was just like, damn, I was like, I never even thought about that. I thought I could see that happening, but it was like on the 6 liter. But I thought, whatever it was talking about, I just kept thinking, I can't believe this wouldn't be on any diesel. What the hell was that stuff called? Well, they're putting in the commercial vehicles. I guess they put them in semi trucks. And I thought, I was like, I'm sure it could even happen with the gas. I know this stuff can turn acidic, so you got to also change out your coolant. They got little testers. I got to get some of those testers, see if it's acidic. I try to change it. I try to just suck it out, fill it back up. That's what I do. I find it's easier. The iPad, yeah, fix them without, yeah, changing parts, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It just, for some reason, when I was talking to Kat, and then it was like, for some reason, when I was thinking about those wall buttons with LiftMaster, I thought, geez Louise, when I was going through Service Spring, and I thought, you know, LiftMaster's got so many wall buttons. I was like, my gosh. I was like, I guess on one hand, it was like, congratulations, good for you, you know, that you got so many options. But I thought, what a logistical nightmare. Like, oh, you got to have all these wall buttons on your truck, you know, and then it's like, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I go, so what's going to happen? Because LiftMaster's notorious for this. What's going to happen when they start moonlighting these things, you know, or sunsetting them, you know, where they don't make it anymore? And I was like, uh-oh. I was like, so can we just take any wall button, as long as it's got a circuit board, and hook it up and it'll work? Yeah, it's not going to have the motion detector on it. Sorry, you don't make that one anymore. You know, so I just, something that just kind of crossed my mind, and all of a sudden was like, hey, I was thinking about the new cars. I was watching a video guy where he changed his door panel, or changed the whole door, and he's like, I'm not changing the handle though, because the handle has electronics in it. And he's like, he was saying how if he changes the handle, the car won't recognize it. It'll actually put the car in some kind of limp mode. You can't drive it because it thinks it's the theft thing. And then, so he's like, asked me how I found out. So then he had to have the car towed to a dealership for them to flash it to understand that that new door handle is part of the car. So then the car would run and drive. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I thought, wait a minute. With all those wall buttons, what'll be the future? They're already getting it out there, right? Because they've been doing that for years now, right? They've already started putting wall buttons that you got to have, you know, linked. You just can't put a doorbell on anymore. And I thought, oh, and then what happens is down the road, they either have a switch or a way to turn it off because it's got to be hooked to Wi-Fi, and then, you know, or whatever. And then now they start going, well, now, you know, this will be, you know, and they'll have to make it good for us somehow. They're part of the GOV, man. They're BlackRock or whatever, you know what I mean? Like they know how to play the system. They're gonna always feed us. It's like the new flock cameras, you know what I mean? It's like, isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how stupid we are as Americans? And like, I was like, oh, they got these flock cameras, kind of, you know. And then it's like, I was watching something, they said, it's kind of funny that they're called flock cameras, right? Gotta control the flock. Gotta control the herd. Gotta control the sheep. Bah! You know what I mean? And I thought, flock cameras. I thought, what a way to slap you in the face. You know what I mean? Then I'm reading something today that's saying how these flock cameras are going to have, and I thought, oh, I was like, that's why they're doing it. If they're going to start being able to have a digital, some way to track, to tell what your phone was doing at that time in that presence of that flock camera taking the picture or something. I don't know all the details behind it, but I thought, oh, I could see them using that for, you know, you were on it, or like it was transmitting, you know, something, or your finger was touching it or something when you got in that car accident 2 minutes later down the road. And I thought, yeah, all right, I think this might be getting a little bit out of control. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm not a big fan of all the cameras on these openers and stuff. I'm, you know, especially when it's not like it's on a built and proven system that I go, man, these things never have problems, man. These things are so bulletproof. I have to, you know, where it's like I want to install something where I can go, I have to install this. Everything else has so many problems, but this thing is so robust, so reliable, so engineered, been so dialed in. And that's why I pay another $20, $40, $60 more for this unit. You know what I mean? Because it's just built like a tank. It's going to last. It's got parts on it I can replace. No, it's like we've gone worse on quality, and we got more on tech. Not cool, in my opinion. Could I invent to improve garage door openers? Ooh, smart mom. Look at you, like an older machine motor. It seems a guy on YouTube made a side mount opener. What's a winch motor? Yeah. You know, and this is a great, like, this is great. I'm not, and this is always that, it's that moment where I'm like, I'm not bashing anybody. Like, I hope, I hope Eric comes out. Like, if Eric comes out, dude, like, with an old, like, please. But here's the truth. This is the Uncle Dave truth here that I believe. This is just my opinion. So please, no men in black suit, don't sue me. It's just my opinion. It will never happen in our lifetime. Why? Why do you say that? Why you gotta be such a dumb? Because we are controlled. We are controlled by the GOV. That's it. And until, probably going to have to be the men, maybe some of the women, either stand up or somehow start voting with their money, right? Where they go, wow, the shareholders are not enough to keep us propped up. You know, we are really losing big time right now. We absolutely, like obviously something happened with electric cars and electric trucks. Something big happened. Like, I mean, they were pumping so much. I don't know about your area, but my area, they were pumping millions upon billions of dollars into this stuff. I was just like, this is it. We're going. If you like it or you don't. You know what I mean? 2030 comes, baby. We're all gonna be driving electric cars. I mean, they're telling you. They're telling you. You will own nothing and you will be happy. They're telling you. It's right there. And all of a sudden, they totally, I mean, I couldn't believe that Dodge came back out with the Hemi. With the Hemi? Holy crap. You know, a V8 gas hog. You know, like, I mean, some stuff really changed. So, obviously, they couldn't keep it afloat. They're like, dude, like, we're, like, the GOV was, like, funneling them the money, and they're just like, we can't keep this going. Like, we're losing big time. Like, and they're like, well, find you some more money, just keep advertising it. This is what we want. And they're just like, we can't make this work. Like, we have only sold, like, 2, you know? And so, that's what happens with a lot of this stuff until people either wake up or use common sense or vote with their wallet. The people will just keep going. They'll just keep doing the same thing because they'll just go, they keep buying it. We can just keep marketing it to them and they'll buy the shit. They don't care because it's got the new best thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how, it's just like with these cars. Like, I don't think I'm going to be buying, like, if the old Nissan, I either look for another Nissan possibly. This thing's been a damn good little truck. Good, low, good on gas, runs, very reliable. I just get like an SUV or something I can work on. You know, like an old Chevy Suburban-ish, 2006 and older or something, you know. I don't know. We'll see what happens when that day comes. But I don't know. Turbo. Modern performance cars, not diesel trucks. Oh yeah, some do have electric ones, I think, that run afterwards, I think. pH level, new motors is so important because aluminum, and it can ruin the head gasket. It sounds like it can kind of eat. Dave's Garage talked about that, right? So you got to keep up on all that stuff. You got to try to they got what, top tier fuel or something. You're supposed to use good fuel. If you got direct injection, what is it? Dave's Autos recommend every 30,000 you're supposed to get it walnut blasted. If I had a new truck, probably maybe with Rusty or Evan, I'd probably get a catch can on it. If I was planning on keeping it for a long time, so I'm not sucking any of that oil, into the motor. Some of them new, especially if they're direct injected versus port injected, I'd definitely make sure I'd get a catch can on it, catching the oil vapors off the PVC. Flat carrot has to catch the crooks. That's how that works. That's part of that. It's one big party or whatever, one big club, and you're not part of it. That they're not going to get rid of that club. It's like we're talking the other day about it. Like I said, not one person. Not one person goes to jail. Not one person. Nobody. Car turbos bearings are cooled with oil. I agree on that. Nobody uses turbo tires on WRX and the other performance cars because they are a thing of the past. That's right, we're not in the club. A big club, yes. I can't drive a diesel anymore. Yeah. Okay. What was I thinking the other day? Oh, it's because I was watching and see, that's how they do it, right? That's how they do it. Because I know if anybody's got anything, comment if you've seen it, right? Because I know I've talked to Tanner about this, I've talked to Rich about this, and that's a weird turn signal. This seems like it'd be I guess it's not. I thought that was a cop. But here's the thing: has anybody seen on a parking lot or seen out on the road? Have you seen one of those little Toyotas yet? Right? Because I'm just telling you, this is my opinion, but I feel like the administration's been promising a lot of stuff, and I haven't seen the shit being delivered. So where's the stuff? The EPA is going to get rid of this and not this. I haven't seen I watch a lot of car guys, a lot of truck guys, and I still haven't seen nobody come out and go, damn, this truck doesn't have the emissions. Couldn't believe it, guys. Here it is. You know what I mean? So to me, it's like all advertising. Like I was just watching something the other day. I think Tucker was talking about, Tucker Carlson. And he was talking about something that everything from a politician, like once you realize it's an ad, all it is to sell you something. That's all it is. It's an ad. And I thought, yeah, no kidding, man. Like everything they say is always this. We're going to do this. We're doing this. We're doing this. We're doing that. And I thought it's paid by somebody or something. It's just an ad. It's all advertising. And I thought, damn, that's pretty much it. And so it's just, I haven't seen one of those new little Nissan trucks out yet with crank up windows. That's affordable. I haven't seen the mission stuff come out that they said, why aren't they jumping on this, man? Where is that? Come on. What are we at right now? We in 2 years? What we have? We got halfway through for Trump? What's going on? Come on, man. You better step it up. So, but anyways, with Uncle Tony's Garage, right? Not to be confused with PT. We love PT. But he was basically, the long story short is, he's like, and I thought this was a great point. He's like, have you noticed how all the car manufacturers are having problems? Like all of them. Like nobody knows how to build a V8 anymore. Nobody can build a V6. And then it's funny, isn't it pretty funny how pretty much most of them all They all got debris. Jesus Christ. We don't know how to freaking clean a damn engine block? I mean, come on. I mean, come on. This ain't our first time making motors. So, and I thought that was a good valid point because I thought, you know what's funny? We don't ever hear the Chris Farley, or I'm sorry, whatever his name is, Farley, Frank, or whatever the hell his name is, from Ford. We don't hear Mary from General Motors. I don't know who's Toyota, some Chinese guy or whatever, Japanese, I forget his name. But you don't hear these guys coming out saying, hey, we got a problem. We're going to fix it. We're going to make it right. We're going to do better. No, it's just like they get away with it. They're just like, it's okay. That's normal. Just normal. They like to feed something down that's like 1%. You know what I mean? When you go on the forums, go on the forums. Be on these Facebook groups. You'll see car after car after car failure with certain models. And it's like, I would be seriously ticked off if I bought a brand new vehicle and then I have to have the engine ripped out of it. And then the motor that I put in still doesn't last because some of these guys are on their second to third motor and they haven't even reached 100,000 miles. I would consider that bullcrap. I would not. And then to have that on a Carfax to go to resell the car? Hell no. You know what I mean? But some people just keep like they were like, you didn't think after the first one, the second one, like what are you drinking, dude? You know, so it just blows my mind that there's people out there, they just don't see these things sitting on a parking lot that you're just like, haven't seen those things move. 4 or 5 of those cars, same ones, they haven't moved. Everybody knows the research is out there, but no, people just walk. They don't do the homework. Like I said, it blows my mind to this day that we have so much technology. I think it's a blessing. I love the technology. I didn't have this when I was younger. You can do all the research, you know what I mean? But most people won't. Most people won't. People watch football games. They'll watch the hockey. They'll watch Tiger Woods. They'll watch Trump. They'll watch Biden. They'll watch all these people that are going to save them, you know what I mean? Or just entertain them. And they won't even pay attention to what they're doing in their own life. You know what I mean? Just everything's good. And there's all this information. It's all there at your fingertips. Just got to look for it. Infrastructure isn't ready for electric vehicles. Great point. I'm glad you brought that up. So here was the thing. The thing with Uncle Tony's garage was that he was talking about, the base long story was because these cars are getting so bad, they're going to force you, you know what I mean? When you can't get the parts, you're having so many problems, you're like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm just going to go buy an electric car. It doesn't have, this engine problem. You know what I mean? That's what they always do. That's why when guys are always like, I'll never drive electric. And I'm like, when a gallon of gasoline is $20, you might reconsider. When diesel is $30 or $50 a gallon, you might reconsider because the other guy, your competition, is driving electric and he's smoking you on prices or something. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's always like, I'm with you, but I can't say for sure, Oh, yes. Evan needs to look into. Absolutely. Yeah, you want to get rid of that. I think the lifters are still weak, but yeah, you don't want them doing that, whatever, the 4-cylinder thing or whatever it does. That'll kill the engine. Yes. Oh, that's good. The 6 doesn't have it. 6 doesn't have it. What's up, PT? Hope you're doing good. Have tons of problems with the 5.3 and 6.2. Yeah, I heard something, Rusty. I think you're right. I heard something like there's people like doing like rest in peace 5.3 or something, blah blah blah. I ain't gonna lie, I was a little sad. I was like, man, the 5.3 is a good motor besides when they did all the AMF stuff, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, those are good solid motors, like the 6.2, just get rid of that. The 6.2, go back to a 6-liter or whatever, without the mini trucks from Japan. Mini truck, all electric, 25K. Are those? Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them lots. I haven't seen them driving around. Like there's a company, probably Chinese, make view with manual windows and zero electronics. Ooh, that'd be kind of cool. Electronics, man, is what just is bonkers lately. I can't believe how many things have electrical problems right now. It just drives me nuts. I started taking pre-orders 3 days ago. Some should be end of the year. Okay, all right. Let's see them, man. I want to see them. I want to see people driving them. I want to see people buying them. I want to see some more affordable vehicles. Come on. I thought this was America. I thought we could build stuff. I thought we could make stuff affordable, but nope. We want to show you the big old SUV with leather seats, the country edition for $120,000. So you're enslaved forever. So they say. Yeah, that's a good point, Rusty. Because I remember watching the Ford unveil their electric. I forget. I must have been really bored that night. So I was like watching it, and they had, what's that guy's name? Farley. What's his name? Well, I can't think of what his first name is. It's not Chris, because obviously Chris's brother or something passed away. But I did think it's funny. They're still related. It's like I said. It's like some big party. They're all part of it, or big club. But anyways, I was thinking about it, and I was watching it. I was excited. I was like, dude, it's gonna be sweet having like 110 at your job site, maybe 220. I think it could do 220. I thought that would be so cool to have power. And then I thought, then it's like they started coming out and doing their testing, and they were only getting like 80 miles with pulling trailer. I was like, 80 miles? I was like, that wouldn't even make it to my hunting trailer. And I thought, damn, I'd be up there. I gotta be up there for probably a week or two just to recharge it to get back. What if there's an emergency? And it's cold. It gets cold in Michigan. I thought, that don't sound good, But I was thinking for if I had a modern job or something, and I thought if you could you imagine if they had such a good power pack. This is just my weird way of thinking, right? I thought, what if you had a job, right? Because some of these places have free electric, they can park their Teslas and stuff, and they get free charge, right, while they're at work. It's whatever, part of the something. I don't know how they do it, but I thought, wouldn't it be really cool? You could take a pickup truck and you could go to work, and it's like crapping on the clock, right? You always crap on the clock, right? You don't crap at home, you crap on the clock. So it's okay, you go there and you charge up, right? You charge up at work, and then you go home and you plug that baby into your house. You're like, there you go, kids. You can play all night. We're turning the power off the grid. You know what I mean? So we're not paying electricity anymore. Hey, run the air conditioner, baby. I get the dryer going, babe. Get the wash machine going. Yeah, it's all running off the pick 'em up truck. I just need enough to get back to work tomorrow. I'm gonna recharge. And then come find out these batteries aren't really that powerful yet. Maybe in the future, right? But maybe if they stuck a flux capacitor on it, you need to talk to Doc from Back to the Future, and they could get this figured out. But it doesn't work that good, you know what I mean? But I just thought that was my crazy, man, if you get free electric, plug it in, power it all night, air conditioner, get the clothes washed, instead of those peak hours. Screw those peak hours. That's why they put the smart meters on. Your smart meters are going to be better. Yeah, everything's always just like the flock cameras. Always going to be better. Yeah, until we find out what they're really doing. Yeah, horse and buggy. I talked to the one guy that works here, and he said, I told him he's got horses and stuff, and I said, we go horse and buggy. He goes, horse and buggy? He goes, horses aren't cheap either. I said, yeah. I said, I'm sure, but I guess at least right? I mean, if it just lays down, it's dead. You just got to get another one. You feed it, craps a little bit. I mean, it doesn't sound too bad nowadays, does it? I mean, instead of playing, chasing these ghosts. What is this? You can see they can slaughter your goats and sheep in the yard now in Michigan. Why would that even Why would that even like? That's like the weirdest thing. That's just so weird to me. Why do they got shit like that? That just I just don't even understand it. You know. But good to know. Good to know. I just can't believe. Can we like just have like everybody can carry type of stuff? Like, can we have like really juicy stuff? You know, I mean, I know you can open carry, but like everybody just carry conceal because like nobody opens. If you open carry, you're gonna have like cops called all the time on you. Oh my gosh, I got a gun. Dun, dun, dun. I'll buy one Club Pay Runner. Don't be pulling a trailer. Might not make it. I think even Hoovie's garage or whatever. I think he even got rid of his. It was like, I don't know, he had so many problems or whatever it was. I don't see him. I seen one around town not too long, but that was it. I haven't seen any other ones. Chinese cars come all decked out for under 20. Well, that's what they're doing. Isn't that what they're doing? They're like slowly, didn't they buy a few manufacturers? And they're slowly, like, that's how they're going to start infiltrating into the States through the you know, I forget what company they bought. But I mean, come on, China pretty much owns this anyways, right? Everything we buy is China. I mean, China was trying to put a big power plant, big electrical plant. That one got scooted out up in Big Rapids, Michigan. I don't know whatever happened to it. The money went somewhere. Didn't go back. It went somewhere though. A lot of money. Oh yeah, the Chinese. I know. That was what really got me thinking about the whole tariffs, because I remember I was watching a guy. This was just about when they were coming out, and I was watching a little bit of Peter Schiff and stuff like that, and he was, you know, talking about with the tariffs. He's like, you know, ultimately we pay for them. You know what I mean? And then what always resonated with me, I was watching this guy that sold little skid loaders and backhoes that were Chinese. And he's like, yeah, he's like, so basically, he's like, now the math comes out, instead of selling them for $5,000, now it's going to be like $6,200. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, well, what the hell? Like, I got to pay you $6,200 versus I could have paid $5,000? Like, that's bullcrap. And I thought, because of the tariffs. And I thought, damn it, you know, like, we always pay. We always pay. I don't know who, like I said, all I kept thinking about is always the people at the top, right? Inflation is good for the people at the very top. The raw steel, the oil companies, maybe, whatever is the raw stuff, really, really big at the top. That's the only thing I can think of sometimes. You know what I mean? So, because the problem is, too, is that stuff ramps up so fast that it's like hard for us to always catch up, right? We don't just all of a sudden, oh, we're doubling, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's tripling. And so it's just, I have no clue what's going on with crude oil, the futures. It doesn't make any sense. The whole stock market doesn't make any sense to me sometimes. I shake my head. I go, this doesn't even make one bit of a logical. When I was younger, like, you kind of like, okay, like you could believe it, you know, but now it's like, you might as well just invest in it. Just play with them. Just invest in it. Hope for the best, play the casino, and, you know, it goes up, you know what I mean? Just, that's what I was saying earlier with Evan and Tony. I said, you know, just, you live under a bridge, so you don't have to pay taxes, and you invest. And then there you go. You don't have to deal with property tax, you don't deal with insurance, you don't have to deal with all the, you just, that's it. Just lease a building. How would I do that? Let's see, if I was leasing, I'd lease a showroom. You get something that's in a good, like, get like a lease where you can get into a really public area, and then you can have like people come in, like the high end, and like they can sit and they can go over next door and they get their nails done, or they can get their back massage, and they can get their garage doors. I don't know. You know, like I said, it's always different. Oh, they want bad charging the road. Ooh, to embed the charging into the road. Inductive charging. I don't know. That sounds like Tesla stuff there. The Nikola Tesla. 18 for going to 2012 Toyota. That's the best ones, man. That's the best ones. If I could find me a, I don't know if that's the second gen they call it. Went up to what, 2020 era, somewhere in those Toyotas. Those were good, reliable trucks, man. The 5.7. Supposedly that 5.7, I don't know if this is was the 350. It was a 350 Chevy. General Motors sold the patent or whatever to Toyota. And I was like, really? I was like, I guess. I could be. It's a 5.7. That's what the 350 used to be, right? The old Chevy 350 was a 5.7. Then they went to the 5.3. So I was like, damn. I was like, that's kind of cool if that's true. I don't know how true it is. But that's why it's like weird, because it's just like when I think about the Guardian, right? When I think about the Guardian garage door openers, when I've had them open or something, I'm kind of looking at it and I go, damn, this looks like an old LiftMaster. So I'm like, did LiftMaster sell the rights to Guardian or to the Chinese? That like, you can go ahead and, we're done with this platform, so you can do something with it now. But we want a little bit of royalties or something. Yeah, I don't know. But it's just like, man, it looks just like the regular AC motor. It looks like the Travels, you know, with the manual screws, you know, the mechanical limits. I'm like, man, this looks like an old LiftMaster. I'm like, huh. Indiana, Kitsap carries 22 state. Oh, wow, permitless. I don't carry. Laws, most adults carry only, so without any government issued license. Yeah. Oh, mini. I know, I'd like to get a little mini backhoe. That's my only thing. I'm always like digging for like trenches or drainage. And this is our looking at cheap trailers to buy. Ooh, cheap trailer. What was that like? Is that like a, Evan? Is that like a trailer? What's trailers mean? Is that like a trailer park, or what does that mean? Or is that like living out on a piece of land? I mean, trailers, when I think of trailers, especially when we're talking garage door, I think of like enclosed trailer. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking about like enclosed trailer, like we're gonna store garage doors, or what are we doing? What are we doing? Let's see if I can find a sleepy pill in this place. This place is so full lately. Just been so much traveling. It's got light in here? Heck yeah, it does. I swear I've seen something here earlier. Got my go bag. This is my emergency bag. Of course, I don't have my flashlight because it's in the other. Yeah, buddy. Got the good stuff. Damn, look at all this light. Boozing. Bougie. Yes, Rich. Sitting in the garage. Toyota is GM copy. Really? Toyota is GM copy. You think that 5.7? Ooh, we got a backhoe attachment. Wonder how that works. I always thought about doing one for the skidster, but then I always thought like it sucks because you gotta like move the skidster then to, you know, where it's like you gotta always have that pivot. The pivot's really nice, and to be able to like, you know, screw back. Because I had a tractor that had it, but it was very clumsy and old, and it didn't work too good. Modular mobile home might be a way to go. Find one you could fix up in a park. Get one for a discount. Find the crappiest one in the nicest neighborhood, just like a house. You know, value add. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really changing my opinion on the way the world's going. Caleb was just at a job, and I think these guys were in their, I think they're in their late 20s or 30s. And he was saying they were detailing. I guess he was at a really nice house, and so he was kind of gloating a little bit. He's like, I'm doing something that they couldn't do, fixing garage door stuff, openers and that, and they're detailing cars. But he said I was listening to him and talking to him, and he's like, I come to realize that these guys were saying like, we're making good money, but he's like we can't afford a house, and the houses have gotten just ridiculous in price. And the worst part is then you got to pay property taxes. You got to pay insurance. And I personally believe, if I was a young person again, if I could do it over, if I were to say, I got to start out, I'm a young person, I got to start out, I would probably, because the problem is for me right now is I need the rooms, right? I need the rooms, and most places don't have the rooms for kids. But if I don't have kids, I could probably deal with a 2 or 3 bedroom, like an apartment or something. Now, it doesn't sound that glorious, but when I look at it right now, this is what I look at, right? This is what I see. And I just say, I have to look at the facts. That's kind of the way I look at it. Most people, right, nowadays, including myself, occasionally, and the wife Tron and stuff like that, right, sit on their phones. They're sitting on their phones. They're watching whatever, internet stuff, whatever, movies, reading, all this kind of stuff. You don't really need a place for that. You just need a room and a bed or a couch or whatever, right? So this is my opinion, right? Because I always lean back to the Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Does it put, an asset to a liability? So does it put money in your pocket, or does it take money out of your pocket? And unfortunately, a house, the way things are going and things are unpredictable, right? Or at least if you sign up for, let's say you rent something, hopefully it's a locked in deal for a year at least. You know what I mean? But you don't have to hopefully cut the grass. So that means you don't have to buy the gas. You don't have to buy the premix. That means you don't have to buy the oil. That means you don't have to go buy the piece of crap lawnmower they want to sell you at Lowe's or the box store, or go to buy the bigger, nicer opener at the dealership that you got to spend another $600 for because you want it to last. You know what I mean? You don't have to take care of the driveway because the driveway's chipping away because it's asphalt. You don't have to buy the snow blower. You don't have to buy the snowplow truck because, honey, I tried shoveling it and you said you were going to help and you're not out helping. You know what I mean? And so there's just a lot of stuff that, like I've bought places where I thought the roof don't look that bad. And 3-5 years, it needs another roof. And at the time, you don't realize that it's $20, $30, $60,000 for a new roof. And then you have to make those decisions, which take a ton of time and research. Do we put a metal roof on? Do we put an asphalt roof on? Do I do it myself? Are we going to pull the permit? Are we going to do this underlayment? Are we going to do ice and water? Should we just ice and water the whole thing? I don't know. You know what I mean? Is it going to have bad sheeting? How much is that going to cost? There's just so much that goes into it that we spend so much time that if I was a young person, I would spend that time investing into my business, investing into my garden. You know what I mean? Investing into stock market. You know what I mean? Like I would invest it, and I think that's why Grant Cardone, I didn't agree with it at first, but that's why he says, and I don't believe everything that Grant Cardone says, but he says, rent where you live. And then he says, own what you rent. And I think that has a lot of, when you think about it, you know what I mean? Now, granted, he finally bought a place out in California on the water or something. He's got FU money. You know what I mean? Most of us don't have FU money. And there is, it just depends on what you want. You know what I mean? Some people enjoy cutting the grass. I hire all my grass to be cut. I don't enjoy cutting grass. You know what I mean? I don't have the time. I don't have the time to even enjoy it. So I just hire it, and it's a burden. You know what I mean? Um, there's just things that you gotta, you know what I mean? Like and there's so much you gotta think about. It's like these vehicles, right? I sit here and I always think about these vehicles, and I go, I can see why businesses just own them till 60,000. They get rid of them. Because you can typically run a vehicle to 60, 80,000, and you don't have to change the rear end fluid. You don't really have to do major brakes or calipers or rotors. Yeah, maybe you got to do a set of brake pads or something, right? A set of tires and stuff. But you can run it to that point, and then somebody out there, like I used to be, I was one of them, I would see this vehicle come up, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like they're selling this truck or van or whatever for 60, it's only got 60 or 80,000. Man, those things go like 150, 200, 300,000 all day. Like, I can't even believe they're getting rid of it. But they already took, I always call it the head, like my grandpa used to say. He always said when he had a beer, right, when he got poured at the bar, he always loved the head, the foam. And so they took the foam, right? The foam is gone. The best part's gone. They did pay a premium for that head, but they got it. It's gone. You know what I mean? Now the next guy, well, they didn't do the transmission service at 30,000. So you're gonna do it at 60,000 or 80,000? You probably should, but you're always on the fence now. You do that, it could blow up on you. You know what I mean? Oh man, now it needs calipers. Oh man, there's electrical issue going on. Oh man, it's got a tick to it, man. Oh man, there's all these things. So it's a hard balance. It's a hard balance. I can see, but there's things that you got to think about. And that's the thing I don't like, is I don't like thinking about the stuff. And so if I was young, I would definitely be looking as inexpensive as possible first starting out, because you know what you got to remember too is the women will lie. I love you women. I love you women, but you will lie to us men. You will promise this whole thing of like this and this and like you have this envision us guys just because we're chasing the tatas, and it's like, oh, but when you're out there in the middle of the night by yourself, shoveling, sometimes fluffy snow, sometimes wet snow, guess who doesn't want to come out there and help you? When you're like, hey, this is part of the deal. Like, I thought you were gonna be like, like doing this. I'm tired. I had to work all day. I got school. I gotta study for an exam. I can't do that. And you're like, babe, we don't get this damn driveway shoveled or snow blowed or snow plowed or whatever. Like, we ain't getting out in the morning. There's another storm rolling in tonight. Like, we're gonna be stuck and like nobody going to work. So there's all these things that consume your time that I look at it, and it costs a lot of money. You know what I mean? One of the guys just had, it was going to be 600. The mechanic called back. Now it's 800 to fix something wrong with the vehicle. That's just pretty much how it works. And I was thinking about it the other day, and I kept thinking, I haven't mentioned to him yet, but I've been thinking, I thought, if anybody, he hardly puts any miles on. He should lease a vehicle. He don't put the miles on. But then he got something nice. It's new. It's consistent. He's already making payments. So why not just make low payments? And you don't put the miles, it probably won't even exceed the miles. And you got something new, you don't have to worry about it, doesn't have to go in. It's just stuff you got to play the game. Stuff to think about. That's all it is, stuff to think about. Was more, probably could make it big enough and close your trailer and house. People buy 2-story sheds, make them tiny house. I was watching something, which I didn't watch it very thoroughly, but they were talking about how much the cost from building to just buying. And it wasn't that much difference, because you had to do plumbing, you had to do electrical, you had to do insulation, and I was just like, yeah, okay, you won my vote. Just buy a mobile home or whatever it was, because by the time you do all this, which I don't doubt adds up. It's kind of like that whole thing where I always tell people, like with AutoZone, I'm always like, you could go build a car from AutoZone. They're like, that's ridiculous. I'm like, exactly. So you're just going to go buy a car, maybe it's the same concept. Not always. I don't know. I haven't done the numbers. Yeah, older ones run 125. Yep. If I was I would have started the business the moment graduated high school. I love it. Or I would have gotten out of working minimum. Yeah, yeah. That's cool. That's funny. I like that one. That makes me laugh. Clothes was master in the back bunks for the kids. It's like a tour bus. Yeah, it could be. That could be. It's just amazing because when we're young and stuff, you know, like I know it because I'm like an old grumpy man now, where it's like I know all the stuff that you can't do nothing without the township or permission, or I mean, you can barely wipe your own butt nowadays without, you know. You got a nickel for that? Did you get a permit for that? Is that environmental friendly? That's a hazard? That's a hazardous waste. Day why I never. Yeah, I know it's kind of weird. Like, you know, I think as you get a little bit, I think when you get older, you know, you should probably start getting into something. But I think it's like I said, it's kind of like if I was to start out now, because here's how I look at it, right? The one thing that we don't ever consider is, right, we don't own nothing. You still got to pay property taxes. If you have everything paid off, you still have to pay property taxes. And guess what? If you don't pay the property taxes, which is bull crap, right? For $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, boom, they snatch your house. It's gone. You know what I mean? So it's like, what are we really? We don't own nothing. You want to have a car? Well, I own the car. Yeah, okay. Well, you still got to put insurance on the car. You still got to put plates on the car. You still got to put oil in the car. You still got to put gasoline. I mean, it's like weird when you think about it, you know, because I always try to think about, this is how I think about it. Maybe some of you guys can take away from this on this. I look at everything and I think if I had to go pick up pop cans, that would be a hell of a lot of money. So when I see stuff that's $20 or $300 for tabs, I go, damn, that's a lot of money. And you don't get nothing out of it. It's not like I gave you $300 and you give me food, or I give you $300 and you give me something back in gold or silver or gravel or firewood or something. It's just gone. It's just something to have the privilege to drive on your roads. You know what I mean? And that's what always irks me on this whole game that we play. So, but yes, I mean, I do agree to a certain extent, and that's why you got to balance it out. But for me, when I was younger, I had the women driving me, right? Well, you know, it's like that whole story, right? The white picket fence and all that. And I wish I would have been more of a man, and I would have been like, nope, like, we're going down this road. You're going to come along. I'm the leader. I'm the provider. I'm the hunter. I'm the killer. You know, this is how we're going to do this. You know what I mean? And I would have done that more instead of just like always thinking we deserve. You know what I mean? Like, we deserve this. We deserve that. We deserve. Don't deserve crap. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so much easier once you have the machine running and get the systems in place, and just take your beatings faster. And then you also have the ammunition, or you have the money, or you have the energy to deploy in it. Versus for me, it was just like, I'm dying. I'm oh man, I gotta work. You know, I gotta work all this, and then I gotta go home and I gotta work on this house. And it's just like, sometimes you get into a certain project or something where you can't just stop where you're at, so you got to finish it, you know. And well, we got the weekend, we got everybody coming, we're gonna, you know, do the roof, you know, where maybe you could have enjoyed it. Maybe you could have took a boat out. Maybe you could have had a little toy or something. You could have, you know, in the big thing in business, what I learned too a little bit, which is good sometimes, you have to make your own choices, is fixed expenses. So for us, one time, until the wife of Tron told me the one time when she was like, you know, we were like in whatever it was, like February or something, maybe March, early March, and she was just like, I think we can afford a new vehicle. And I'm like, whoa, like, why would you say that? Like, I've been talking about this forever now. And she said something about like, she goes, we already got $10,000 in repairs. And I'm like, what? I mean, I think we had like 3 or 5 vehicles or something. Anyways, it was a huge number at the time. I was like, what? It's like, so like when you're sitting there thinking like, we have car payments, then we have something new, then we don't have to take it down to the mechanic, we don't have to say hi to the dogs, we don't have to, you know, get the car back, and then the technician still goes, yeah, something still ain't right, we gotta take it back. And it's like, oh my gosh, you know, we need this truck to be out and be productive and be out making money, and this technician to be out making money. it's better just to have a fixed expense, which was a newer vehicle at the time, and it's just drive it, baby. Drive. Ooh, those are a little bold. Hate when the coatings start going. But yes, there is a balance between, yes, you don't in a nutshell, but Grant even says something about it where you think about the numbers, what you're paying. I mean, because when you do the math, you're paying double, pretty much, right? You buy a house, you're paying double. So you buy it for 200, you're paying 400. You know what I mean? And so like, that's always that. It's like, it reminds me of that whole thing where people, it's like when you hear people go to the casino, they're like, I won $2,000. Like, okay, but what'd you spend? Well, I spent 4. Okay. So you didn't come out ahead. You know what I mean? And then it's like, what do you do when you go to the people for customers, right? They've been there. You always come up with a small conversation, right? Well, how long have you been here? Oh, I've been here 30 some years, or 50, whatever it is. Really? Well, what'd you buy this house for? Oh, they get all kind of excited. I bought this house for $32,000. You know what the neighbor sold his house for? And you're like, how much? He's like, he just sold his for 400. And you're like, okay, but all the maintenance, all the money, I mean, sure, probably still coming ahead a little bit. And now, luckily, hopefully, it doesn't get uncapped, but his taxes are kind of low. But the next person that comes in, that the house now gets uncapped, it's a vicious cycle. It's a very vicious cycle. And then by the time you still have to fix it, maintain it, paint it, wash it, clean it, it's a lot when you're starting a business. You know what I mean? So to me, it's always the business is your garden. That's what makes the money. At least you take your beatings, learn it. Maybe you don't even want to do it. Maybe you want to venture out to something else, but get your lickings in and get the process and procedures, try to wick them, and then you can maybe you can invest into a building, whatever the future may hold. That's just kind of my theory on the world economy at the moment. It doesn't always work. Like I said, if somebody's got a house for $25,000, snatch that puppy up. $75,000, snatch that puppy up. You know what I mean? Grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, give you a good deal. Hell yeah. If it makes financially good sense. But like I said, you always got to remember, like I said, when you buy stuff and then you got to work on it, it's costing you money. It's not putting money in your pocket. Yeah, but he said in that Cali place, I don't know. I think he bought it after the fires or whatever. So I don't know, but you never know. The kids, no, they don't. They got their own events and stuff, and kids. I guess my one did not too long ago. She jumped on one just for fun, but it's not consistent. You know what I mean? Could I? Yes. But I actually try to make them do more important stuff, with either computers, making sales, dealing with customers. That's what they always talk about, like that. You got to remember, right? So, the only thing that holds us back, right, is what we dream, right? It's right here, right? I mean, all you guys out there, you know what I mean? Y'all better looking than me and all that, right? But it's here. This is all it is. It's just we have to dream bigger. So once I started learning, there's certain things that are bottlenecks. I don't do that. When you're doing something that's basically let's say a $20 an hour job, I don't touch that stuff. I try not to, anyways. I'm not saying I always don't, but I'm just saying, like, it's not trying to. It's just. But you can be making $50 or $100 an hour. You gotta, you know what I mean? And so this stuff becomes a burden, you know what I mean? And I think the one that resonated with me one time is the guy was cutting the grass. This was a different guy years back. And I was burning garage doors at the time. I had some wood doors I burned, right? And I didn't tell him to cut that close to the thing. Well, anyways, he got something caught up in his cable. That's what it was. It was a garage door cable in his lawnmower. And I seen him down at the gas station or something. He's like, man, it's caught in your grass. He's like, I sucked up a cable. And I'm like, all right. I felt bad, right? I was like, man, that sucks. But you know what? In back of my mind, I'm sitting there going, glad it was him and not me. Because now he's got to fix the blade. He's got to get a new blade. Now, I'm not trying to be bad about, or like, you understand what I'm saying though? Like, I don't have to go home and deal with the lawnmower now. I don't have to deal with, I could have done that too. It could have been just a totally accident. I wouldn't have been cutting that close to the fire pit. But you know what I'm saying? He sucked it up. He's got to fix his lawnmower. I don't got to fix it. I don't got to get the wrenches out, because you realize as time goes on, especially as you start getting older, we're running out of time. I'm running out of time. You know what I mean? Like, it's just all this stuff consumes. The more stuff you get, the more it consumes you. And so you deal with the house, or if you're not, if these things aren't making you money, they consume you. That's why it's just real easy to, does it put money in your pocket or does it take money out of your pocket? Now, it's a balance game. Like I said, you got to figure out. It's just like with renting. Hey, I don't like renting any more than the next guy, but I tell you what, I like renting a piece of equipment. I like renting a piece of equipment because I don't have to maintain it. I don't have to change the oil in it. I don't have to store it. I don't have to worry about it getting stolen. You know what I mean? It's not my problem. I just use it and I give it back. I need somewhere to live, right? I need somewhere to take a shower, a hot shower. I need somewhere to take a crap. I need a fridge. I don't need that much as a younger person. So, it works out pretty good. And then if the hot water doesn't work, not my problem. I call somebody. Oh, it needs a hot water tank. Well, that's going to be $800 or $1,200. That sucks when it's your own. Especially if you're out working on a business, when that time could be, maybe you could be out talking to another lumberyard. Maybe you could be out making another deal. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying? But I can see, like I said, as the time goes on, like I said, even with me at my age now, it'd be really hard if I could rent a 3 or 4 apartment at a reasonable price, a 3 or 4 unit with a 2 or 3 bathroom or something like that. I'd probably do it. I probably would do it, because one time I remember when I went up to, it was called Great Wolf Lodge, and I thought somebody needs to build something like this. It'd probably be too expensive, but when I went up to Great Wolf Lodge up in Traverse City, Michigan, yeah, I believe that's where it's at. It was a blizzard out, right? Just a blizzard. I get up there, it's not too bad when we get up there, but we're there for a couple days. We have some family members that come up and visit us. It's just a blizzard out. And I realized, I thought, I don't have to leave this place. Now, obviously, if you worked, you have to leave, but I thought, this is great. This place has a restaurant in here. So I go down, I get a burger, I can get drinks if I want to. It's got a indoor water park, and I don't even need that big a water park. I just need something where the kids could go play. I thought, this is great. Like, you could have their kids come over, their friends come over, and like, you could tell them, like, go to the water park or go to the playground and go play. And it's like a community. So like, even when I was what do you call it, when I was camping between houses one time, I was in a gated community, and I felt like I was with wealthier people. It was a nicer campground. I felt safe for the kids to be like, they know not to go out the gate. There's no reason for them to go out the gate, and everybody's got eyes all around this place. You know what I'm saying? So the kids could just run around, and everybody drove reasonable and stuff, and they used common sense. But it just felt like I had such a small place because I have a trailer. It's like 2 swipes of a vacuum. You throw the fire. So sometimes minimalism, like just having less is sometimes more, So I just put it out there because I've been on both spectrums, and I can tell you what, I've been happier sometimes with an older truck. I've been happier sometimes with a smaller trailer to live in. Now, those were little kids I had back then. They weren't full adults, or mostly adult kids. So things change. Things change. You adapt. You learn. But I had a great time. My only complaint was the water there was nasty. But I probably could have bought a better filter system now that I know what I know, and I could have made it better. But the water was nasty. I didn't like. It had a lot of iron in it, so that was the worst part. But it had a pool, had a playground. They had the neighbors. It was very fun to go to too. You know what I mean? So like, maybe a trailer park's the same way. You can find a nice trailer park. Unfortunately for us, we don't really, in our general area, at least from the shop here, we don't really have too many nice trailer parks for us, unfortunately. I know there is some out there, but in Michigan, we're poverty. It's poverty around here. And watch yourself less than market rates. Oh, tax paperwork and fees. Separate LC. What's that one? What's the LBT Jewel? What's Jewel Walsh? That sounds familiar. Do. There you go, buy an Amazon house. That's right. That's right. Well, like sometimes even talking to like Caleb, and I was the same way. I was the same way. I call it, there's another one, to it. We call it young and dumb and, you know, fill in the blank. But you got to remember, like, you don't think you have, I'm one of those people. I believe when you own your property, you should be able to do what you want with it, right? But it doesn't work that way. You got permits, you got neighbors, you got to have zoning, you got to have offset. It really stinks. So sometimes it's better just to buy something too, if it's small or whatever. It's there's so many ways to slice that, but it's ultimately you got to do whatever works better for you in that situation. One big thing I would say is watch the numbers. You know what I mean? Make sure it makes financial sense. I used to do it when I was young. You always think, well, I can afford, and you go to the very top. Try to go medium. Try to go middle. You know what I mean? Because every time you stretch yourself to the top, that's when it bites you, because that's when you need to replace the windows. That's when you need to put the roof on the place. That's when you need to, oh man, the driveway needs to be graded a certain way or whatever, or the sewer's not working. All these things add up. So what's happening, guy here? Working no longer tonight. Oh, and buy a lotto ticket. Let's hand it over. Guy says, oh man, I don't need your ID. That's funny. That's funny. Oh, no property. Yeah. I remember a guy that was our vendor. His son was following like a famous dirt bike guy or something, and he was saying how I remember how did he say it? He said he was living on a boat, and I think he almost felt kind of like discouraged, like you're like, well, he's living on a boat, and I was like, that's awesome. He's like, well, it was the cheapest he could find, and I was just like, that's awesome, dude. Like, good for him. Like, save his money. You know what I mean? No property taxes. Women are hard to find and far and few. Yeah. Hopefully, if they have a good upbringing, you know what I mean? Their parents, kind of show them the way. Women are tough. You know what I mean? My first one, I remember, the big thing for her is she was kind of insecure, and so she would buy things to make herself feel better, shoes, clothing, and man, she could rack up a credit card. That wasn't cool. Stepping over dollars to save dimes. It's so easy to get caught up in it. It really is, especially if you get credit cards, or they give you a mortgage, and I think they call what's like a mortgage called? It's like called enslavement or something in another language, or slavery. And that's kind of what it is to, like, you think about it, like, think about who's winning. When you think about the whole system, right? When you think about how that system is, when you sell something, right? So it's like I don't know, you think about, you fix something, right? And then you sell it. You're like, sweet, I got paid. But then you got to pay income tax, or not income tax. You got to pay capital gains on that. And then the next person comes in, they buy the house, it's worth more, right? So now the house comes uncapped from that. So now it gets capped at a higher rate for the property taxes, right? So the township or city goes, ooh, we get to raise the taxes automatically. We don't have to hold back only 5% or less, you know what I mean, every year. We just, boom, we get to jack it up. Then think about how the bank comes in, right? The bank goes, oh, sweet. The house was 200, now it's 400. So now we get to put a mortgage on it for 400 at this interest rate. And, so when you think about it, it's like the township and the banks are the ones really winning. That's right, Rich. To have experience and material things. Yeah. And it takes time. You know what I mean? There was a lot of stuff I jumped in way too fast. I think, and it bit me, and it bit me hard. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much out there that you just don't know how the system really works. And it's just like, I see it with Caleb, right? He'll sit there and, well, I'm thinking if I could buy this, and it's like, dude, you're not even like, you're just looking at this. Like, you got the blinders on, dude. Like, you're looking at, like, well, if I buy it, I own it and I get to do, and it's like, it doesn't work that way. You know, you just can't just pop up a tent. You know, it's just like when he was gonna stay with a guy, and I said, you got to watch, dude. Like, you can't be bringing like certain trucks there, and maybe if you change your address there, it could trigger something, and then now you're ticking off the person that you're staying with. You know, so you got to watch certain things. That looks like a 5-0. Oh, I don't think it was back. Try to live off. If there's 2 of you working, yeah, that's not bad. That's really good too. Like I said, yeah, for me, that was my problem too. It was like my first marriage. We got in, and the house we bought back then was 82,000, right? But then, got the camper, got the truck, then she got a car, we had the student loans, and of course I think that was back in the Clinton. So you could just walk into any bank, and they just, boom, man, they just needed a signature, and you got a loan. And then all of a sudden we're getting divorced, and it was like, it's like, how am I gonna pay for this stuff? You know what I mean? And so then I ended up renting out the house. I stayed in the garage, and so all that stuff can just implode. And then that was my decision, but there could be times where that's not your decision. You know what I mean? That she decides certain things, and you know how it is. I mean, let's face it, us older guys have been through the ringers, so we know how this stuff works too a little bit. We know that things, you say never, but you can't ever say never. You know what I mean? And let's just face it, with women out in the field, they're not at home anymore. They're working. They get other guys that like to influence or to challenge a marriage or all kinds of stuff. You never know. You just never know. Or God forbid, something just happens unexpectedly, or an accident. Things happen. So you want to make sure you got a nice little nest. You know what I mean? And especially, it's really tough when you're a business owner or entrepreneur. It's super tough. You know what I mean? Because you don't always have a consistent cash flow. You know what I mean? And then the time you're growing, the time you need to hire somebody, you need to buy another truck, you need to buy more tools, you need to buy another scissor lift, or whatever it is. It's a horrible. It's like my drill just died. It's like I'm like sitting there shaking. I'm like, you shouldn't die yet. Yeah, I know it's been used, slightly abused. It's time, but $200 and some later, got a new drill. $200 and some, get a new drill. And sometimes I sit there and wonder. I go, it's nice that we got all these creature comforts, but I think these creature comforts are consuming us. You know what I mean? Gotta buy all this stuff. Was this the club? If you were breathing, you could get money. Never the right time. No. That's why you always want to have that buffer. You want to have that safety net. You want to be, But the one thing I always learned, I was explaining this to Caleb, and he's been doing really good. He was talking about buying a newer car, and I'm not. It's one of those things. I just try to give him my experience. I don't try to tell him what to do, because I sometimes I get that from certain people that like tell me what to do. Well, dude, I wish somebody could tell me. I've been looking for that magic rope. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. You have to just make a decision, and you have to try to make a calculated decision. And it's tough. It's really tough. But, I told him, I said, even if you go get a car from a dealership, let's just say, it's not guaranteeing that car is not going to have a problem. And now I said, you'd be like me, dude. I said, I bought a newer truck to me, right? And then I got it in the shop, and $8,000 later. So you know how much of a kick in the hiney that was? to be paying insurance on it for a whole month and a half, basically, that you're not using it. You're making a car payment on it, truck payment, and now you just get to dump $8,000 to get it back on the road. Gotcha. That sounds really fantastic. I am super excited about this. You know, I bought a newer truck to have a payment on that I thought would eliminate these kind of major problems. Doesn't always mean that. Doesn't always mean that. So here I am. You know what I mean? So it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Great conversation. I think there's a video going to be uploaded if it hasn't uploaded. That should be on our AMAR door. You should watch that video. It has a little hiccup to it. The spring pad come off. We'll see you later, alligator. Over and out. Keep those fingers. I love you all. Take care. And good night.